Okie dokie, I believe we are all the way live. Hello and welcome to my graveyard. I am your host of the evening, the Cemetery Man from Salem, Mass. Always taking names of kicking candy ass, live and in living color here with you on Grande's Graveyard. Welcome back to another edition of the show. Whereas this week we will finish what I started over almost 3 months ago with our Twilight Zone Season 5 Part 2 review. Yes, and of course, in the first part, I reviewed episodes 1 through 18 of season 5 of the Twilight Zone, and tonight we'll go from 19 all the way down to the series finale, the Bewitchin Pool. Yes, episode 36 of season 5. I'm super excited to be continuing this tonight. The Twilight Zone, of course, is my all-time favorite television show. So, I mean, I've been wanting to do this part 2 to this for the longest time, and this was the week where it kind of fit in best. Of course, I did upload the upcoming Grande's Graveyard schedule. Next week, we're doing creature features. The following week, we're going to be doing the actor spotlight special. The following week after that, Amityville. And then we may be doing a horror roundtable. So that's all in the works. It's going to be super fun. But tonight, it's all things Twilight Zone. 5th season of the 5th Dimension. Absolutely zero regrets, ladies and gents. We got a couple people in the house. Miss Carter is here. Ciao, Grande and friends. She was here before we even went live. We have a newcomer, Rosalia Zurita, saying, hey, Miss C. Hey, Rosie, welcome to the graveyard. A newcomer to the graveyard, Rosalia. I just want to make sure I don't get your name wrong here. Rosalia, newcomer. Cheers to the newcomer here on Grande's Graveyard tonight. And I'm super excited to be discussing, of course, Twilight Zone season 5. It wouldn't be a season ranked show if we didn't have the old tier maker up, of course, from S to F here. I know that the S is a little bit cut off, but from S to F, S being the best, F being absolute failure. We will have one of every category because for the first time ever tonight, I decided before I started the show, I was like, let me see where I'm going to put these. You know, I don't want to do them as raw as I usually do. I usually kind of talk it through as I go. And this show in particular, I was like, let me do it before just to see what I think. Kind of a rough sketch, and there was one in every category at least filled out. So it should be an exciting show. I'm super excited. I've got all the plot synopsises up to the right here. Call me Rosie. It's just easier. Fair enough, Rosie. Fair enough. But everybody, we're not going to waste any more time. Cheers to the weekend. Cheers to a wonderful weekend. I've got some boring Pure Life water, but happy it's weekend time because definitely a little bit tired of fucking, whatever life in general. So I definitely want to sleep a little bit come Saturday morning. The Master of Fear is here. Hey, Grande. Welcome, Malcolm Fear. Good to see you on here. All right. We're going to dive right into this son of a bitch. We're going to dive right in to the Twilight Zone Season 5, Part 2. Super excited. All right. So where we last left off was Black Leather Jackets, was a season 5, episode 18, which is a failure. It is a total failure of this particular show. One of the worst episodes, definitely. But we take off from here, of course, season 5, episode 19. This is Night Call. Yes, Night Call. Telephone calls begin to haunt a disabled elderly women overnight. Yes, Night Call. So this is, from what I understand, this seems to be a series favorite. Of course, it stars Gladys Cooper, who was also in Nothing in the Dark, which is another big series favorite, a big underrated gem for people. Of course, that's the one where she plays the old woman who is dying and death comes to her door in the form of Robert Redford. And Robert Redford tells her, hey, it's time for you to go. I have to take you up. I'm sorry. That's a great episode of The Twilight Zone. And in my opinion, it's definitely the better of the two Gladys Cooper episodes. This one is only as good as its fear, suspense, and execution of horror lets it be. And in my humble opinion, it doesn't really work that well. Of course, Gladys Cooper stars as this elderly woman. She's getting these calls overnight when she's lying in bed. She's disabled, of course, from the waist down. She's in a wheelchair. She doesn't have much going on. She's bored. She's miserable. Her husband's passed away years ago in a car accident, and she's just a miserable old woman. And every night she gets calls from this creepy person on the other phone. Hello. And the person won't say anything other than hello. And she thinks it's a prank. She thinks it's a joke. She thinks that it could be, of course, somebody coming to get her. And of course, that's where the horror element comes in, of all the paranoias that we may kind of run through in our own minds of, oh my God, what could this be? Is this just a practical joke? Is this something more serious? it's considered to be a really well-liked episode. And Tales from the Dark Side even tried this as well. They did an episode exactly like this where it was a woman and it was the phone in like the other apartment ringing off the hook, and she couldn't decide whether or not to pick it up or not and see who it was. This episode is similar to that, but I don't know. For me, the horror and the tension here never really worked, in my humble opinion. I don't know. I never really was scared by this episode. Now, there's episodes of Twilight Zone that scared me just from the season alone. Living Doll is one that scared the shit out of me. The Masks is a one that scared the shit out of me. There's quite a few Twilight Zones that in a way got under my skin and hit a nerve. This is just one that just didn't do that for me. It's very one note. It's a lot of the same until, of course, they decide, hey, let's take a ride out to where the phone wire is. We could take a look at it. They take a look at it, and of course, big spoiler here, the twist is that the disconnected telephone wire is on the dead husband's grave, and he is calling her from the grave, and he, of course, she's saying, stop calling, and then when she finally gets him back, he says, I always do what you tell me to do. I won't call you anymore. And she's, no, I didn't know it was you. I'm sorry. And it just kind of ends. I don't know. I feel like for a show that always focused on morals, I don't really understand what bad morals she had here. Any fucking person in her shoes would be kind of creeped out by the phone calls, right? Like I would be, but it's one of those things where it's like, oh, okay, whatever, you told me to go away, so I'm just going to do that. Like, what? Like, she didn't know it was you, my guy. I don't know. I just thought, like, it was kind of odd, and they make the whole thing where, oh, she insisted on driving, and they got to an accident. He died because she insisted on driving. It's like, that's a little harsh. I don't know. I felt this one was just a little bit messy in its moral. But I don't know. Overall, it's one that it really is more reliant on its horror and reliant on its tension. And for me, I just didn't feel that really full circle here. I think it's okay. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world, but I also really wouldn't consider it good. In fact, I'd say it's quite overrated. It looks like on IMDb, this one gets an 8.1 out of 10. That's pretty high, in my humble opinion. But for me, Night Call, while it's not a failure, it's only a step above failure. I'm going to say Night Call, man, could we give it a C? Well, for now, we'll give it a C minus. Night Call, in my opinion, is like a very, very weak C minus, very bordering on the level of being a D. But, of course, things will definitely step up because there's quite a few episodes of this second part of the fifth season that I do like. This is just one that I found a little bit overrated. But let's get back to comments. Rosie says, cheers. This episode is good. Okay, we got a fan of the episode. I think that the episode was inspired by an old urban myth. Yes, Slasher Fred, welcome, my friend. I definitely get that. I could see somebody trying to tell this story around the campfire. To me, though, it's only as good as its execution in horror. And to me, this episode and even the Tales from the Dark Side episode that tries this, I just don't feel the horror in either of them. I don't know. This story maybe needs to be elongated, or if it needs, I don't know. I don't know what the disconnect for me in this episode particularly is. It's not necessarily bad, but it's not one that I ever really, I'm like, oh, I want to go back and watch Night Call. Like, it's just not that memorable. It was Brian, her fiance. Yes, she caused the accident. Yes, she did. And that's like the whole thing. They're saying like, oh, karma on her. It's like, dude, it was an accident. Like, I don't know. I don't really, like, I don't see the whole, oh, poo-poo on her arguments. Like, she wasn't a bad person, and if I was in her shoes and having these weird night calls, I would have said stop calling too. I think it's one of those things where we're all only human, so I don't really understand her big morality punishment here, as opposed to the guy from 4 o'clock, or opposed to fucking Mr. Dingle. There's certain good and bad characters in the Twilight Zone. This is just a character where I didn't feel she was all that bad to get what she got. Trenchy's here. Hey, what's up, good brother? Hope all is well with you. Your thumbnail is one of my favorite episodes of all time. Spoiler alert, it may just be my favorite of this entire season, but I'm happy to have you in the house. I like the twist, but it did need more tension. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I don't know. And I don't know if it's necessarily poor directed. I don't know. I think Gladys Cooper does a fine job acting. I like her as an actress. I don't know. It's one of those episodes that it was always missing something, but I couldn't really quite put my finger on what. But not one of the worst episodes. It's definitely better than the next one we're going to talk about. Hey, Miss Carter, Fred, Rose, Lena, and friends. Hey, Grande, sorry I'm a bit late. Do not be sorry at all, my friend. Glad to have you here. Welcome, Brian. Ciao, Solis. Hey, Trench. Hey, Brian. People saying hi to everybody. All right, so let's move on to our next episode. Of course, this is Season 5, Episode 20. This is from Agnes with Love. A computer technician begins to take advice from his love life, Agnes, the computer he works with. Yes, from Agnes with Love. Wow. So, very low rated episode, just saying. Very low rated. From a technical standpoint, this is rather weak. I definitely see that too. It's definitely, we're not starting this episode off with back-to-back good ones. In fact, they're back-to-back low subpar ones, but I promise the next two I really like. This one though, it's kind of like a takeoff on The Chaser, of course, that bad season 1 episode where this computer tech guy, he is looking for love in all the wrong places, and of course he starts to ask about the opposite sex through his computer Agnes. And of course, the Twilight Zone fashion would have it, Agnes at first is giving him great advice and then becomes jealous because the computer falls in love with the lead. And it's kind of there. It's kind of a mess. It's kind of just like poor comedy episode where I know they're throwing the whole horrors of love in there as well, but this is definitely one that's more reliant on being funny. And I don't know, while I think there's a couple laughs in here, this is just one of those ones where I always felt was just sort of forgettable, kind of goofy, kind of back burner episode. Like, nobody really talks about this one. I completely understand why. I like the lead actor. I don't think he does a bad job. I like the whole idea of a computer getting jealous of somebody. It's almost like the relationship between Plankton and Karen. Of course, if any SpongeBob SquarePants fans in the house, it's very similar of this, man that's trying to take over the world and whatever and get the Krabby Patty secret recipe. This man, on the other hand, is trying to find love and trying to find a woman that loves him. And of course, he goes to the computer for all this advice. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Almost in a sense of a mirror on the wall. How the fuck do I get this bitch type of thing? And he, of course, in turn, the computer falls in love with him, and you have your Twilight Zone twists and stuff like that. It's goofy. It's cheesy. It's probably a little too cheesy for my taste and most others. I think it's just one of those where the cheese is almost sticking to the box type of thing. But I don't know. Overall, it's one of those where I wouldn't say it's quite a failure either, but it's not that good either. And I would even say it's a step below Night Call. From Agnes with Love is going to come in at like a solid D for me. Very mid episode. How many shows have you covered so far, Grande? We're only 2 into this episode, so happy to have you aboard, buddy. We got 18 total to discuss. This one was a bit annoying. I would agree with that. I think I always felt that this one could have been maybe a little bit better. But again, this is one of those deals where you look at where they were in the series, and you do see this with a couple of episodes when you get to especially the second half of season 5, where it feels like they were running out of ideas. It feels like they were rehashing some things. While you do have some up-and-coming directors, whether it be a Richard Donner, whether it be a Ted Post, you do have some up-and-coming filmmakers that would make their debut in season 5, which is kind of a big reason why I like season 5 a lot, even though it gets a bad rap. You do have quite a few episodes that feel like, okay, this is a rehash of this episode. This is if this episode and this episode met and had a baby, it would be this episode. Like, you definitely get that a little bit more here in this season, especially towards the latter half. So, I mean, it is what it is. This one it's like a mix of The Chaser and fucking, I don't know, the SpongeBob Karen character. Karen is one of the best SpongeBob characters. Of course, we love Karen. I didn't think computers were even around back then. LOL, at least Wade's probably not the home computer. Well, I mean, if you think about it, they fucking made a Oscar-nominated film with this in Her, with Joaquin Phoenix. If people remember Her, where Joaquin Phoenix falls in love with his iPad played by Scarlett Johansson. So, I mean, if I was ever going to fall in love with an iPad, it would have to be the iPad played by fucking Scarlett Johansson. Sean Blue Digital is in the house. Hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome, Sean Blue Digital. Hope all's well with you. Computers were very huge during the 1950s. Yes, and this is early. This is like 1963 that this aired, late 63. Missy, yep. People saying hi to Sean. Rosie, I'll take your word for it. Yeah, absolutely. But no, I mean, again, I totally can understand why she didn't know that. Didn't Ted Post direct episodes of A-Team, maybe 102? Yes, he did. He was big. And then, of course, he went on to do one of the Planet of the Apes films. I really like Ted Post. And Ted Post, it's cool that he, one of his first starts was this show, was season 5 of the show. I like that you see guys like a Richard Donner and Ted Post and guys like that kind of went on to become great filmmakers. I think that's so cool to see the origin story of where they started and good, bad, or indifferent episodes of a show that was kind of on its way out. But that brings me to season 5, episode 21. This is spur of the moment. An engaged heiress is terrorized by a middle-aged woman on a horse, pleading with her not to go through with her impending marriage. Yes, spur of the moment. Of course, starring the voluptuous Diana Hyland, the late, great Diana Hyland. For people that don't know, Diana Hyland actually had a fling with one John Travolta. That was apparently the first woman he had ever fell in love with back when they did the Bubble Boy movie, which was like mid 1970s. She played his mother in that. And then in real life, they fell in love, and she died very prematurely, I think at the age of 41 from breast cancer, which is quite a shame. I know actually John Travolta's real life wife, Kelly Preston, she died of that as well. So very sad to see Travolta lose not one, but two love of his life to the same disease. I mean, it's super sad, but I thought Diana Hyland was just a beautiful woman. And basically this episode tells the story of her character. She goes out on a white horse for the day, and she's looking to just, kind of see the countryside, forget about life for a while. She's out on her horse, and she sees another woman, older, on a black horse, dressed in all black, and she screams for her name, Anne! And then, of course, this woman chases her and you have this wild horse chase. She gets away from the woman. She gets back to the house, and she's upset and what the hell? Why would anybody try to attack me? What did I do? What did I do to bother anybody? And the episode plays out where she is going to be married to this very wealthy man, but she feels that she does not love him. She loves this poor man who wants everything for her and wants to have her and wants to be with her forever. And this episode is kind of the age-old question of, would you and could you make the right choice when it matters, right? Because here we have 18-year-old Diana Hyland, even though she was like 27 at the time of acting in this episode. She's supposed to be 18 in the episode, making a critical life choice. Okay, which man will I marry? Which person will I spend the rest of my life with? These are not easy choices, right? One has money, one has things going for him. The other one does not, but he seems to be more into me. I'm more into him. What do I decide? And it's that, like I said, that age-old question and argument of, I have to make the right choice here. I can't screw this up. She, of course, this one night at a party, she, sees the poor man, and the poor man says, listen, I'll take you off your feet and we'll be in love forever. And she runs off with him. And you get the idea that they were going to get married instead of marrying the rich man or whatever. She's not going to marry him. She's going to marry this poor guy. We fast forward to 25 years down the road, and we see her life has become shambles. We see her dive into alcoholism and be this horrible drunk who is just in a horrible depression. And you get the idea that her husband beats her and that he's this mean, awful husband. And then she sees in kind of the mirror that, hey, I made the wrong decision here. I knew that I thought I loved him, and I knew that even though he was poor, we could get past that, but he was lazy and he was abusive. And it in turn turns her to make these horrible decisions, of course, and become an alcoholic. And man, Diana Hyland's performance is fantastic as we see this beautiful young woman at the beginning of the episode. And of course, then we see 25 years later how she's transformed into this miserable, sad entity of a woman. And I love the whole type of narrative here where, it makes you kind of think, would you ever stop yourself if you could in the past? So let's say, let's say me 20 years from now could stop me right now from making bad, poor decisions. Of course you're going to want to do that. Of course you're going to want to go back because we're all human. We all have things that we're going to regret in our lives. Hell, this is 26-year-old John Grande. 26-year-old John Grande would have told 21-year-old John Grande to do things different in different ways. Did I do some things right? Absolutely. But did I do some things wrong? Absolutely. We all have regret. And this is an episode where it's like, hey, look in the mirror. And this woman has a chance to warn her younger self, because the whole twist here is, spoiler alert, the woman on the black horse at the beginning of the episode that chased her is her future self. That's her 25 years from now. And she's trying to chase herself down and telling her not to make the wrong mistakes and the poor decisions that she made. And that's just heartbreaking, man, because I feel like everybody has a bit of that inside them. No matter how much we have right going for ourselves, I'm sure we always have regret. And I'm sure we always want to look back and say, hey, I wish I could have done X, Y, and Z instead of A, B, and C. but I'm stuck with that now, and it sucks, and it's horrific, and I have to grow from it. But here's an episode where it kind of shows you that. And I don't know. I thought this was a really good episode, a very good episode in comparison to the first two we've discussed. Diana Hyland, I think she does a great job as the lead. I don't know. Spur of the moment for me is going to be a strong A. I think the world of this episode, I always thought this was a little bit underrated. It doesn't even get a 7 out of 10 on IMDb, which is a damn shame. But I don't know. I always felt this was a good episode. One of the better ones from the last half of season 5, for sure, in my humble opinion. Let's see. I love this one. Absolutely. I love this one too. I hope this Thursday stream never comes to an end, and look forward to this every week. Sean, thank you so much, man. I appreciate the high praise and the support, of course. Ciao, Grande. Hope all is well. Happy Thursday, everyone. Welcome, Mateo. Hope all is well with you too, my friend. Speaking of TV directors, Grande, have you heard of the Rockford Files starring James Garner? Of course I have. I was a little kid when that came out in the 70s. I'm just asking because you're referencing TV directors. I love the Rockford Files. I'm a big 70s guy, period. You know, like Emergency, even though it wasn't a great show, I always liked Emergency. And, of course, The Odd Couple with Jack Klugman and Tony Randall. I'm a big 70s guy in anything. Mernsey Movie Mansion is here. Hey, what's up, everybody? Stepping into the Twilight Zone. Your next stop, the Twilight Zone on Grande's Graveyard here tonight. The movie was called The Boy in the Plastic Bubble. Yes, that's right. And of course, like I said, John Travolta was the boy in the plastic bubble, and he fell in love in real life with the woman playing his mother, Diana Hyland, who apparently, from what I read, died in his arms, which is really sad. She didn't even live to be 43, which is what's crazy about this episode. She didn't even get to that age that she gets to in this episode. She's playing 18-year-old, then 25 years later, 43-year-old. She never even got there in real life, which is super sad because she was a beautiful woman and definitely was a good actress. This is making me think of the Bubble Boy episode Seinfeld. Of course it is. They did a good job of making us think she picked the right man. Of course, right? Because I, on paper, probably, okay, granted, let's switch the fucking sexes here. If I was the fucking person getting married and I had to choose between two women, yeah, one woman is rich and well off and treats me well, but then there's the other one who's head over heels for me, doesn't have much, but I know the love is there. On paper, yeah, I know the second chick loves me more, so I probably would lean towards that. But you never know how things are going to play out. You really don't, right? Listen, this is not to say that she could have picked the other guy and he would have treated her like $1 million either. If she wasn't in love with him, who knows if that would have worked either. Now, it may not have been the misery, it may not have been the alcoholism, but it could have been other things too. We never know these type of choices when we make them. Hindsight's always 2020, and I think that's what this episode is showing us. Yeah, it is 2020. Did she make the wrong choice? Absolutely. But who knows? Who knows what the other choice would have taken her? But I don't know. I like thinking about stuff like that. For me, it gets personal when you think about stuff like that, and that's why I love this show, is when it gets personal with you. Makes me think of the book by Gabriel Garcia Marquez called Love in the Time of Gloria, about a romance that lasts over a lifetime. I think it's a sad book. I haven't read it in a while. Okay, Kubrick, it was The Moors. Okay, that's a nice twist for a show of its time, because usually the poor guy who picks, yeah, exactly, right? You would think, oh, I'm going to pick the rich guy that's not that into me, and then realize, oh my God, I could have fallen in love and had someone that really cared. They flip it around, because I think 9 out of 10 people would have made that choice, and I think that's what makes it all that more relatable. You know, they maybe 1 out of 10, 2 out of 10 would pick the money over the love. But I think most of us, we want love more than money. I don't know. Maybe I'm a fucking cynic thinking that, but that's kind of the way I am. Let's see. Looper, anyone? I mean, sure. Definitely. You can get some Looper vibes here. You guys are talking. Grande, I love the 70s movies and music, but I felt TV got better in the 90s and the 21st century, with shows like Sopranos, Simpsons, and Seinfeld. The 3 S's there. I mean, I love fucking Simpsons, Sopranos, and Seinfeld, so you can't get that all wrong with that, except for the Twilight Zone, which is probably my favorite TV show. Easily my favorite TV show. Steel is in the house. It's Twilight Zone time. Hell yeah, good brother. And we're about to talk about one of my faves of the season. But Grande, when you get old, you learn to deal with how your life turns. It's the truth. That's so true. And it's showing you that in this episode. You really do realize that in this episode. It's like, all right, now she has to deal with that. But she sees her past self and her immediate reaction and trying to chase her down. Please stop. Listen to me. Don't marry this man. Don't go through with it. And she doesn't listen. You know, it's sad. It's tragic, but I think it's damn good. I picked up the DVD, season 2, Twilight Zone. I'll have to watch your reviews and see what you think of the episodes I found on that DVD. Well, hey, you know what? If you want to ever let me know in a private message or whatever, which ones to lead you in the right direction. Season 2 is almost all golden, so highly recommend you check that DVD out. But that is spur of the moment. And now we will move on to arguably one of the most interesting episodes of the entire series. This is season 5, episode 22. This is an occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge. Yes, of course, this was a short French film directed by Ambrose Bierce. And this was, of course, early 1960 that the short film came out. It had won an Academy Award. And what happened was the Twilight Zone at this time was losing budget costs. And Rod had to come up with an idea to save money. And while back in the day, it took about 65 to 70 grand to produce one Twilight Zone episode, this is by season 5 point, he saved 45 to 50 grand and spent 25 grand on bought the rights to the short film and aired it as an episode of his television show. And he even gives a brief introduction before we watch the episode play out. So this was the only Twilight Zone episode to not be shot in the United States. This is the only Twilight Zone episode to not have that same production crew and the MGM backlot and all that stuff. None of that. This is a French, short picture that they just aired as a part of the show. And man, Ambrose Bierce did a great job. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, that's right. He wrote the short story. That's right. Thank you. I appreciate that. He did not direct it. I misspoke. But let's get a brief plot synopsis. During the American Civil War in 1862, a condemned Confederate prisoner, Peyton Farquhar, is due to be hanged by Union troops. This is one of my favorite episodes of season 5. I right off the bat, I'll say that. I think this is an all-time great Twilight Zone episode. And I know a lot of people, is it really a Twilight Zone? They didn't really produce it or direct it or write it. They just kind of bought it and aired it. Sure. But, I think this has every single one of the ingredients that makes the Twilight Zone great. And it basically tells the story of a man. He's condemned to be hanged, and he is standing on a plank. He has the rope around his neck. And we see he looks up into the heavens, and we see the things that he's loved. He's playing his life back in his mind. He sees his wife, his kids, maybe in the backyard, just a beautiful summer day of simplicity and happiness and no worries. And the outside world has enough worries for itself. He's trying to enjoy today. He looks up and remembers that. And of course, now it's the day of his hanging. Now it's the day he is going to die, sentenced to death. He's going to be hung above Owl Creek Bridge. And of course, they go to hang him and the rope snaps. And basically, he ends up in the water. He finds this whole kind of way to finagle himself out of it, swims down the pond. They're shooting at him. It's absolutely wild sequence with very little dialogue. There's not much dialogue in this episode at all, which is another reason why it stands out. It's a very interesting episode because it's more musically and artistically creative as opposed to having something to say verbally. This story is one of those, a picture says 1,000 words type of deals. There's not much dialogue. He swims down the river, escapes all of the gunfire, and he washes up ashore, and he looks around, and he just, for a minute, he's like, I fucking beat this. I survived. Any man who's condemned to be hanged almost 100 out of 100 times is going to die, but not him, not this man. He's a living man. And of course, they play this wonderful music, to me, one of the best songs ever used in the series. This Living Man song. He walks around, he walks around, he walks around. The buzzing flies, the splashing fish. He walks around, this living man. I want to be a living man. It's a great song. If you play the fucking song, it's one of those that gets stuck in your head for a day. I mean, it's just one of those great songs. I love it. But he, in this moment where he realizes he's escaped, he enjoys the earth, and he's grabbing the sand and throwing up in the air and admiring the nature and butterflies and spiders and all of these things that he sees in the trees. And it's wonderfully shot from a cinematography standpoint, just showing you the landscape and the beauties of nature. And then he has to make a run for it home because he knows that they're going to be hot on his tail. He makes a run through these beautiful forest and tall trees, redwood trees. And again, this beautiful music playing throughout until we get to the twist. And right here, spoiler alert, I don't want to ruin this for people because this will ruin. I mean, this is a great twist, so I don't want to ruin it for people. If you haven't seen it, feel free to mute me. You can even hear. I'll hold this up while spoilers are going on. When it goes down, the spoiler talk will stop. So our lead character, he is running, and bam, he is at the home where he imagined in the beginning. He sees his kids on the porch. He sees his wife, and she starts crying, gets up, and has this big smile on her face. Oh my God. Is this real? Is this a dream come true? You're back. You're home. She starts running up to him. And the way the way they play this music to build the tension and to build the moment is fantastic. It's this wonderful build of her kind of coming down from the porch, crying, reaching her arms out, and he's doing the same. He's stretching out like, my love, I'm here. They play this great music. Boom, 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 boom. Almost playing it on a loop to butter us up to be like, oh my God, let them hug, let them kiss, let them embrace. They finally reach one another, and he just all of a sudden goes, wah! And you see that he was actually hung. And we get this wonderful closing narration from Rod Serling, one of the best closing narrations from Rod Serling, where he says, this is an occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge, as it was dreamed and as it was lived and died. These are the ingredients of the Twilight Zone. To me, man, there's few endings better than that, because here's this guy that played his whole life over in his head, and has played his whole life over and all the things he loved, and his children and his wife and everything that was simple about his wife. And he knows he's going to die. He knows this is the end. And he dreams of a scenario where the rope broke and he swam to safety and saw his wife at the end of the tunnel and did not have to die on that fateful day. But in reality, the cold, harsh reality, he gets hung and he dies right in front of our eyes as the episode pans away. To me, one of the best Twilight Zone episodes out there. And to me, a true example of what makes the Twilight Zone, even though this was made by people from France. I thought this was a brilliant idea and a brilliant episode, brilliant short story. I remember reading the short story in college English class, being like, that's from the Twilight Zone episode. Like, holy shit. And I think it's a great short story as well. And believe it or not, this is a fun fact that I didn't know before show prep for this. This episode, since they saved the 45 to 50 grand, the studio offered Rod Serling a season 6 of the Twilight Zone, and he respectfully declined. He was teaching at the time. He wanted to go back into that. And that's why we didn't get Twilight Zone season 6, even though down the road he would go right back and do Night Gallery. So I bet you he regretted it overall, because I think you could have definitely done another season of this. It wasn't like it was fading. I mean, season 4 was a step down, but overall, I still think you could have done a season 6. But, you know, it is neither here nor there. I just thought it was a very interesting thing where I was like, holy shit, like they could have had a season 6 because of an episode this good. How rare is that, you know? But if I was to rank Owl Creek Bridge, it's going to be our first S tier. I just love An Occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge. I think it's an all-time Twilight Zone masterpiece and one that everybody needs to see. Just one of the best, one of the creme de la creme for sure. You come to terms with life and make the best out of it. Of course, hey, man, that's what it is. Let's see. The plot twist reminds me of the plot twist from Tales from the Crypt episode Till Death Do Us Part. Sure, definitely. Does Rod Serling intro and outro it? Yeah, so he does the intro. He's actually sitting in a studio somewhere, and he says, tonight we offer you a French film made by others. This is An Occurrence of Owl Creek Bridge. And then the outro he does as well. And it makes the episode that much better. You would think like, oh, it's so forced in there because it's a Twilight Zone. No, like it's perfect. He puts it over. He says, it's basically like, I know this is not the Twilight Zone, but it's all the ingredients. And that's why we picked it. That's why we bought it for the 25 grand. I completely love this episode. Like one of the best ones of the season. Definitely in my top 5 of season 5. He usually does most of them, Trench. I should say he did. He's dead now. Yeah, may he rest in peace. I'm asking for this episode because it's not an official episode. Yes, the answer to your question is yes. Love that series too. Slasher Fred. Oh, of course. Would love Tales from the Crypt. I'll definitely do Tales from the Crypt like this one day too. Sterling died, I think, when I was around 45. When he was around 45 or 50 from a heart attack. I believe he was influenced from his smoking. That's right. He had like 3 heart attacks in a week. It's sad. That's Brian Chen. She might have died in 1975. How dare you give away spoilers, Grande? Just kidding. LOL. Nate is here, the explorer of horrors in the house. Welcome, my friend. Hope all is well with you, Nate. You're making me think of a Russian director, Larisa Shepitko. of a woman, girl, and men, and that are going to war hung at the end of the film, World War II film called The Ascent. Okay. Did Rod write most of these? Yeah, Rod wrote 92 of the 156. So yeah, that's a more than half. I mean, that's quite a few. Grande gave us plenty of Twilight Zone episodes. Yeah, no, definitely. Serling gave us plenty of Twilight Zone episodes. Absolutely. Never seen this show. Only seen the Twilight Zone. Well, this is the Twilight Zone. We are doing the Twilight Zone. This is just an episode that was not produced by them. A lot of them, some of them will be right. Okay. Need to look into Tales of the Unexpected at some point. Oh yeah, no, I would have to too. Grande is Rod Serling confirmed. I wish I had him on that creative. But that brings us to our next episode of the night. Of course, season 5, episode 23. This is Queen of the Nile. A reporter interviews a Hollywood movie queen who has a secret to her eternal beauty. I'm going to be honest, this one I don't care for at all. This is one I'm going to largely skim over because I just really don't like this one. It's this very, very, very bad rehash of the 16mm Shrine, of course, with Ida Lupino as the star. And funny enough, Ida Lupino would go on to direct arguably the best episode of season 5, which is The Masks. We'll get there. But this episode, man, I don't care for it. It basically stars this beautiful woman who is a famous actress, and she's been around for 100 years, and nobody can understand why. And she is fucking like draining all of the youth from these men that are attracted to her with a beetle, and it's fucking pointless. I don't know. To me, this is a fucking bad episode. I never liked Queen of the Nile. It's one of the worst episodes of season 5. It's close to an F. I don't know if I'm gonna fail it. Like we're going to give Queen of the Nile D-. It's not going to be an F for now, but it's damn close. I don't like this one. I'm just going to skim right over it. I really just never liked it. I don't really care for any of the actors in it. I don't care for the concept. I feel like it was done better even in a lesser episode like the 16mm Shrine. I think it was done better there. The lead actress is pretty. The acting is decent, but it's like, I don't know. It's just kind of one of those where you know how it's going to end. Like, you know where it starts, you just know how it's going to end. I don't know. A lesser episode for me, in my humble opinion. I never really liked it. Matheson wrote I Am Legend, which was made into a film 3 times. I can't remember the first one with Vincent Price, second one called Omega Man Charlton Heston, third one Will Smith. Well, no, and those, I mean, I love that story. That's the story that got George Romero to write Night of the Living Dead, crazy enough. Grande, I've been really enjoying your video Daz's episodes after watching your possession discussion. I watched it. It's one of my new faves. Thank you, man. Dude, I'm so happy to hear that. No, those Video Nasties episodes are a lot of fun to do. And Possession is one of my all-time favorite Video Nasties as well. So I'm very happy you like that, man. We got to talk because I'm curious. I'm guessing you're going to see Evil Dead Rise. I got to hear your thoughts on that because I always love to hear the Explorer of Horror's thoughts on things. I liked it. Not great, though. Yeah, no, I mean, to me, it's a fart in church. Like, it's just, it comes, it goes. That's it. I don't know. Just never really cared for this one. It's I don't even know where I would put it. It's just like a D-. Just kind of a lesser one, a lame one. So one I'm going to skip right over, to be honest. I just never really cared for it. But this next one I fucking love. And this next one it's going to be a controversial opinion because most people hate this one. This is What's in the Box. What's in the box? What's in the box? Yes, what's in the box? Philanderer Joe Britt sees his indiscretion shown on his own television set after it was worked on by a unique television repairman. Yes. What's in the box? One of the more underrated episodes of season 5. There I said, I know a lot of people fucking hate this one. A lot of people say it's over the top to the point where it's laughably bad. I fucking beg to differ. I love this one. I think this one's actually a great time. It stars, of course, this very old cab driver and his wife, and they hate each other. He claims her food is corrugated plastic. She hates him. He hates her. It's just this whole thing of hate. They despise one another. And he comes home from work. He's got beer in one hand, a snack in the other, and the television repairman is working on the television set. And he starts to talk shit about him. He's like, hey, if I was doing this, I'd be done in half the time. Don't you fucking run up my bill for the hour. And the fucking TV repairman goes, oh, you think so? And he's like, yeah, don't you be running up my bill, goddammit. Like, I don't want you to be running up my bill. And he goes, all right, you know what? In that case, it's all set. And it's on the house. And this television repairman has the weirdest face I've ever seen in my life. It scares me to this day. I actually am going to have to show the guy's face because it frightened me to my core. We can get up his face here. I want to just make sure I get a good picture of him because he is the creepiest motherfucker that ever lived. Here, okay, so we got a picture of him here. We're going to have to do a separate screen share here because this guy's face is just the scariest thing I've ever seen in my life. Let's see. Okay. This guy is, what the fuck? Like, if that guy's fixing my TV, I'm like, dude, get the fuck out of here. Like, he is the scariest looking motherfucker, man. Like, I don't know. And he's just like, oh, well, you can't win them all. And he walks out and deadass breaks the fourth wall, looks into the camera. You're like, wait a minute, what the fuck is going on here? Of course, our lead, he starts to watch his television. He goes, hey, Phyllis, we got Channel 10 now. Channel 10, and he sees Channel 10 is him cheating on his wife. And then it plays out where it's him murdering his wife, and it's him in court. It's him being sent to the electric chair, and he's seeing his entire life kind of going to shit on this channel. He's watching his life end before his eyes. And then he decides, hey, why don't I try to make peace with my wife who I fucking hate and cheat on? Why don't I try to make peace with her? And it only falls apart from there. I fucking love What's in the Box. I don't understand why people hate this one. This is considered by many to be a bottom 5 of the series, and I never got why. It is funny. It is entertaining. It is thought-provoking. What if you could watch the future of your life on your own fucking television and see how it plays out, and then you could try to change it before it happens? I think that's fucking brilliant idea. I don't know. I know a lot of people say that this was just too far-fetched for a Twilight Zone. I kind of beg to differ. And man, this guy's fucking face drives it home. That is the fucking face of nightmares right there. I'm getting him off the screen because I'm so scared of this motherfucker. Like, the weirdest fucking face. And if you don't know who that is, because I see some of you guys asking who it is in the comments as I get back the tier screen here, that is none other than the fucking voice of Winnie the Pooh himself. That is Sterling Holloway. Yes, the voice of Winnie the fucking Pooh. That's the guy. He's also Kaa the Snake in the Jungle Book, Cheshire the Cat in Alice in Wonderland, and Roquefort in the Aristocats. So he was a huge fucking Disney voice actor. Just randomly shows up in this Twilight Zone episode where he plays this evil television repairman who ruins our lead's life in a way. Fucking brilliant. I mean, brilliant. I love it. It's so fucking out there. Of course, the husband, he's trying to make peace with his wife, and it's you I'm in love with. And of course, she goes, I'm touched. Like, she's a real bitch back. I mean, she's a real bitch back. Fucking scary lady back, too. She has all this, like, hard, heavy makeup and these big eyes, this mascara fucking eyes. And she, at one point, I saw fucking Flasher Fred mention the Yonkers comment. I want to get that up here. Yeah. Yonkers, Yonkers, Yonkers. That's a fucking scene where she's yelling at him because he was cheating on her from a woman from Yonkers. And she's like, oh, you were in Yonkers, right? Yonkers, Yonkers, Yonkers. This episode is fucking crazy. And the whole culmination is a husband and wife fist fighting in the living room. He fucking breaks a chair over her back. She fucking throws shit at him. And it all ends with him punching her in the fucking face. And she flies out the window to her death. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, you don't expect to see that in the Twilight Zone, especially the 1960s. You'd be like, what in the fuck? How did this air? They're going to take him away. And sure enough, the police are there and the television repairman is there. And he goes, oh, I had the set work for you. And they take the guy away for, obviously, they're going to sentence him to death. And he's fucking, the TV repairman has this big smile on his face. And the episode ends. I love What's in the Box. What's in the box? What's in the box? I love What's in the Box. To me, an all-time great Twilight Zone. I don't understand the hate. I'm going to come in as a solid fucking A for What's in the Box. I love it. I absolutely love this one. No fucking regrets on that. I love it. There's 4 of them, Trench. I thought there were 3. It's not like the box film we saw, Trench. Okay, yeah, there's low-budget one. Oh, God, John, keep that box far away from me. Yeah, no good. This title sounds familiar, Grande. I can't remember the show, though. This episode also starred the late Sterling Holloway, who's the voice of many Disney characters. Oh, okay, I sorry, you mentioned that before I did. Is that Daddy K? No, that was Sterling Holloway, actually. Yeah, he will give you nightmare fuel. That's a scary motherfucker. You know, he look like Harpo. I mean, maybe a little Harpo marks in there. I don't know. Oh, yeah, it is awesome. This one's fucking great. Like, I always love this one. Grande, this is making me think of Minority Report, which is based on the Philip K. Dick short story. It's about a police being able to predict murders before they happen, but there's a problem with that, as you see in the movie. Okay, of course, that sounds like a pretty cool story. Dope. Yeah, no, I think this is a dope episode. Now we see who scares Grande. Yeah, for real, that fucking voice of Winnie the Pooh, of course. Didn't know he was Winnie the Pooh. He was. And if you listen closely, you can totally tell. He's afraid of all these Toon characters too because of it. No, I don't know about that if I go that far. Pound to the moon, Alice. Yeah, fucking boom. Punches her in the face and she fucking flies. I don't know. The first time I saw it, I was like, this is amazing. Like, what the fuck? Just a big what the fuck moment. But I love that one. What's in the Box? An all-time series classic, in my humble opinion. But coming up next might just be the best episode of the season. It might just be the best episode of season 5. This is season 5, episode 26. This is The Mask. Wealthy Jason Foster is dying and invites his greedy heirs to a Mardi Gras party where they must wear the mask he specifically had made for them or else be cut off from their inheritance. Yes, The Masks. Use it as the thumbnail. And understandably so. It's arguably one of the best Twilight Zones ever. And I mean, the first thing I always go to is this is the only Twilight Zone, weirdly enough, ever directed by a woman. And that woman, you might ask, was none other than fucking Ida Lupino. Ida Lupino steps into the director's chair for this particular episode, and I think she hit a home run. I love the Serling script. It's fantastic. Like I said, it's basically this old man. He's on his deathbed. He knows he only has a few hours left. His greedy family comes to, inherit his inheritance. And instead of course, making it like they do care and showing their love for him, you can clearly tell they're just there for his money. And he breaks them down one by one and tells them what they really are. They're caricatures, as he says in the episode. It's great. But he says, listen, I know you don't love me. I know I don't love you. I know what you're here for. You know what you're here for. He says, you'll get every single penny that I've ever earned and that you've come here to collect on one condition. And that condition is you wear these grotesque masks until the ball drops at midnight. And if you do that, then you'll get my inheritance and when I die. And they all begrudgingly agree to it. They put these weird masks on. I always felt they looked a little bit similar to if you go to the drama club or the theater, those masks of the tragedy mask and the comedy mask. Like the comedy mask is all high and the tragedy mask is all like sad. They all each have the masks that personify them. Of course, the mother is a hypochondriac and she's just always whining and complaining about herself and not caring about her dying father, who's literally hours from death. She's more worried about complaining about her back to this doctor who is like, listen, your father's about to die. Like, can you stop caring about yourself for one fucking minute and fucking look at your father? He's dying. So he gives her this kind of, I say the drama theater, the tragedy mask with the big, big frown and big like bags under her eyes. The father is this big phony tycoon businessman. The son is a guy who tortures animals, played by Alan Sues, who was like 38 at the time, playing like a fucking college student, which I think is just so fucking funny. In retrospect, it's like, what the fuck? This kid's supposed to be like 19, bro. He's a fucking 38-year-old man. It's weird. He's this guy he's this big idiot and tortures animals and he feels books. He doesn't read them. That's one of my favorite lines of the episode. And then, of course, Paula, the voluptuous daughter who is so obsessed with her own reflection and beauty that she, of course, on the inside is anything but that. She's ugly on the inside, and they're all ugly on the inside. That's really the point here. And this is mainly a dialogue driven episode, but man, I love the dialogue. It's so fucking good as he breaks them down and they're trying to, you delightful. You just delight us, Father. And of course, as he's berating them and stuff like that, riding them and really fucking putting them down, they, of course, finally get what they've waited for, him to die. You finally got what you've waited for. I'm going to die. He passes away and he's dead. He's dead. Good. They're all saying, good. Now let's celebrate. The masks come off and you see all of their faces have been deformed and they're all now wearing the faces that was what was inside them. The greed, the lack of caring, the true ugliness instead of beauty, the cruelty, all of these things are now on their faces permanently. Yeah, sure, they're millionaires, but they're all deformed for life. And they pay that price. They pay that price from this old man. I thought it was brilliant. I really thought that was a brilliant twist. And the makeup effects, in my opinion, hold up fantastically. I love the special makeup effects. I, to this day, think it's some of the best stuff that I've ever seen. I mean, it's really frightening how simple it is, but yet how effective it is at the same time. And of course, I always liked how they take off the skeleton mask of the old man. They take the mask off and this must be death because I thought when I first watched it, he'd be a skeleton, but he's just normal. He hasn't changed. His mask hasn't been deformed. Why? This must be death. No fear, no horror, just peace. And you see that he died at peace knowing that they were going to be fucked even with all of his money because he wouldn't have been able to die at peace knowing, oh, they're going to get all my money, these fucking bloodsuckers. He gets his one up on them. And I love the closing shot. The Ida Lupino, and I want to give her credit here because I think she did a great job directing this episode, even though, like I said, it's mostly dialogue driven. The closing shot always frightened me where you see the butler. He walks into the room and like looks up and he's holding it. And he's like, oh my God, like he sees them and it's the four of them. And she does this wonderful like pan shot this way of, you know, the mother, the father, the sister and brother. And I like this subtle touch of the brother and sister holding each other's hands, like almost like it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Keep telling yourself that, honey. It's not going to be okay. You're going to fucking be outcasts the rest of your lives. You have all the money in the world, but you fucking look like freaks and you'll die freaks and you'll die the scum that you lived being. I think that's poetic. I think that's Twilight Zone 101. You reap what you fucking sow, cocksucker. That's Twilight Zone 101. That's why I love this show. To me, The Mask's easy, slam dunk, S tier episode of season 5 and of the entire series. Very strong contender for best episode of the fucking season. I mean, it's just so good. It's one of my favorites for sure. Let's see. LOL, meant Scream 5. Oh, Scream 5, forget it. I love The Mask, dude. Who doesn't? I mean, The Mask is a masterpiece. That's what the family looks like inside of them. Of course, they are all greedy and only think of themselves. Decent makeup jobs in this episode. I would say it's great. I really like the fucking makeup in this. Would have been cool to see what else she could have made. Yeah, no, I'm not sure if she ever directed any film because she was a big actress, of course. Like Ida Lupino, she was a huge fucking actress. And I remember when I first watched this, I was like, Ida Lupino directed this? Like, wow. And then the episode played out. I'm like, that's a fucking one of the best Twilight Zones there ever was. Like, I wish you could have done more. I mean, like I said, this is a season where we got Ted Post and Richard Donner, and then you have fucking Ida Lupino out of nowhere direct arguably the best episode of the entire season. Very cool. I'm a big fan of this one. I love The Mask in my top 10 Twilight Zone episodes. I fucking probably would be in my top 10 as well. I haven't seen them all, but out of the ones I see, The Mask is a standout. Dude, it is. It's such a great episode. I think Ida Lupino was one of the first directors of the silent era in Hollywood, not just women directors, but all directors. Very cool. Spoiler alert, the plot twist where all their faces are similar to their mask reminds me of Lock, Shock, and Barrel from The Nightmare Before Christmas. I've heard people compare it to The Eye of the Beholder because like, especially the design of the daughter where her nose is kind of up like a pig. That definitely, I see that connection. Like it's similar makeup, but I still think that the episode itself stands on its own 2 feet. I would even say I like it more than Eye of the Beholder. John, I think Ida Lupino made a bunch of movies. Ida Lupino stars in, of course, yes, 16 Millimeter Shrine is that episode. So they all end up rich, but hideous. Yep, that's a pretty fucking brutal way to be, but that's how it goes. Yeah, the guy that plays the grandfather is so great. Oh my God, he's great. He died very shortly after this, like months after it. I don't even know if he saw it air, like months after it shot. So I don't even know if he even saw the finished product, to be perfectly honest, which is a shame because he did a great job. If they only love their father, well, that's the thing, when you don't genuinely care for someone, they know. And man, this guy played it pretty vindictively. And I love how the grandfather wears the death mask. Me too. I love that too. I thought that was brilliant. I know, I've heard a criticism about this episode that I don't agree with. A lot of people feel that he should have got his comeuppance too, because what he was doing to them was like, oh, you're greedy bastards. They didn't ask to be deformed. He didn't tell them he was going to deform them. Bullshit. I don't agree with that criticism at all. They fucking had it coming. They were a bunch of pieces of shit. He got him good. He did get him good. The dialogue is so engaging in this episode, and the mask was awesome. I agree. S tier, completely agree. Awesome episode. James Abernathy's here. Welcome, James. At least in 80s horror, teens were closer to 30 as 40. That's true. That's right. Of course. Fucking watch any of those fucking 80s slasher movies. You'll have 35-year-olds playing 18. Speaking of Mask and Death, have you ever seen The Mask of Red Death with the icon Vincent Price? Of course, and I love that movie. I'm a big Vincent Price fan. I wish they could have got him on a Twilight Zone. That would have been really cool to see. That's a big missed opportunity from them. I don't know why he maybe he wasn't interested, maybe he wasn't available at the time. I don't know. I know in the early 60s he was still a big name. I mean, shit. The kid tortured animals. Fuck that family. Grandpa did the right thing. I agree. I don't like. There's people that are like, oh, the grandfather should have been a skeleton at the end. It defeats his morale. I'm like, I don't fucking agree with that at all. There's a big group of people that criticize the episode for that. I'm like, yo, you need to find something else to criticize. About. And speaking of things we need to criticize, these next 3 episodes. Oh shit. This next one, season 3, episode 26. The last one was episode 25. I'm sorry about that. Season 5, episode 26. This is I Am the Night, Color Me Black. The sun doesn't rise on a small town where an execution is scheduled to take place. Yes, I Am the Night, Color Me Black. This is one I always wanted to like more, but it's poorly executed. It's really poorly executed. It basically tells the story of this man who murders a KKK member. He murders a KKK member, and on the morning of his execution, because he was committed with the murder, committed with the crime, whatever the fuck, he's sentenced to be hanged. The sun doesn't rise. And it's a whole like politics episode where Rod Serling is saying that, he maybe shouldn't have been hung. But I don't know. Here's my thing. They make the guy who's going to be hanged completely unlikable to the point where he shows no mercy, no remorse, no anything. And he's just like way over the top. We don't feel any sympathy for this guy. Like from the minute we meet him, that's my big problem with this episode. It's like, I feel like if you tweak some things, this could have been a great episode. From the minute we meet him, the fucking priest goes in there. Hey, I want to hear your last rites. You have the right to that. I want to hear from you. And he says this like, oh, fuck religion. I don't care about religion. I just want to die. I want to be hung. Fuck you. Fuck you. The guy doesn't seem like he had any morals. Like, and the priest even saying to him, is a black priest. He's saying, listen, you killed a KKK member. You killed for my kind. I respect that. I'm happy for that. Please let me hear your side. And the guy pretty much keeps telling him to go fuck himself. Like, why not say your side? It was wrong what he did. I killed a man, yes, but God damn it, he was a piece of shit anyway. And that's why I did what I did. That, if you said that, the fucking episode would completely change in morality and tone, because all of a sudden now, yeah, we do feel bad. Yes, did he kill somebody? Yes, but that person was a fucking racist piece of shit. And he killed his ass, and that's why the sun isn't rising, because fuck, like, this guy shouldn't die. This is a vigilante. This is justice. He killed this piece of shit guy that was attacking another man. I don't think there's anything bad in that, but in this episode, it's such a mess, and of the point where it's like, oh, I don't care. Fuck these people. I'm guilty. I killed them, blah, blah, blah. But there's no ever moment where you're like, oh my God, like, I see why he did it. Like, I feel bad for him, and I hope they don't hang him. A lot of the people in the town are corrupt, and I'll hang him good. And the whole episode is a very, very pretentious script from Serling, in my opinion. This was his response to the JFK assassination, of course, which happens in 1963. This was, of course, his kind of retort, because, of course, JFK was shot, and he felt that, this was done out of hate for what he was doing for other people, to helping other people that maybe the people that killed him did not like or care for. Thus, he gets shot, and he feels, okay, if this happened, the sun wouldn't rise. And it's a whole political, social commentary on hate. I don't know. I just always felt this episode could have been saved if they just made the fucking prisoner have some type of sympathy, where it was like, yeah, you know what? Listen, I killed him, but he was a piece of shit anyway, and I'll live with I'll die with the consequences. Like that. That's all he needed to say. He's like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. He's like, fuck everybody. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, God damn it, just speak your case. Be like, you know what he was doing, that was wrong. And that's why I did what I did. I stood up for somebody else. I killed for somebody else. And what do I get for that? I'm gonna be hung. This isn't right. That's not justice. That is what it is. I don't know. I really think this episode's a mess. Like, I think it could have worked. I really do. But I think it was just botched in execution. I think it's sort of poor writing on Rod Serling. I will say this, though. I like the outro. I really like the outro where it's like Rod Serling says it's a sickness known as hate. You know, not a disease, not a illness, but a sickness nonetheless. And check yourself in the don't look for it in the Twilight Zone, look for it in the mirror before all the lights go out around us, because the episode ends where the light is going out in this country and that country, and they're going to show you that if this hate and racism and prejudice and all of these things continue, the sun will never rise again. Like, we'll live in darkness for the rest of our lives because of the hate that we spew. It's an interesting idea. It's fucking horribly executed. I Am the Night, Color Me Black is going to be a D. I don't like I Am the Night, Color Me Black. I never, ever cared for it. I always wanted to like it more than I did. But my humble opinion, just sort of lame. I don't know. Could have been way better than it ended up being. I don't know. I just think if you had that, like I said, that lead guy, if he had just fucking had a scene of dialogue where he was like, listen, I murdered somebody, but this guy was a piece of shit too. And you know what? You want to hang me? You want me to do my dance? Whatever. I'm not sorry about it. There is this quick scene where he does say, I'm not sorry. Like, he says that or whatever. But even the priest, the fucking black priest, says, you know what? Yeah, like, you are guilty. Like, he says, he's like, you hang him. Even the fucking black priest. Like, I was like, God damn it. Like, what the fuck? Just fucking have some sort of sympathy, and this would have worked. I wish I was there. I would have shook him. I would have been like, wait a minute. Think about this. Like, oh fuck, I don't know. I don't know. It irritates me a little bit. Yeah, for real. I have the Vincent Price DVD where he hosts double feature of Nosferatu, Night of the Living Dead. That is really cool. I didn't know that he did anything like that. That is really cool. But Grande don't interesting characters make for good stories. Alex in Clockwork Orange, Jake LaMotta in Raging Bull, and the selfish characters in Seinfeld and Tony Montana. Oh, sure. I mean, I would say with Clockwork Orange, even though, yeah, he definitely is selfish, that movie is a whole kind of criticism on, is it right for man to choose evil, or is it right for him to give man no choice at all? That's the big kind of question with that movie. And of course, yeah, it's actually better he chooses evil, because if you give man no choice at all, he ceases to be mad. Grande, no person isn't it totally good or bad, though, right? Yeah, no, yeah, definitely. I know Serling hated racism, definitely, and he made it known. Absolutely. You could see that in this episode for sure. This is more of a political episode. I like morally gray and evil characters, but they have to be done right. Yeah, that's the issue. Even the guy that was supposed to be the martyr wasn't. That's the issue here. I don't know. I just don't care for this one. He wanted to do Playhouse 90 set in segregated South, but because of the Southern TV syndicates, he had to. I'm sure he did. I'm sure he fucking did. That's got to be true. Kubrick, you were putting George Costanza at the same level as Tony Montana. I love it. Well, you got to love that. Facts. George and Tony. Okay. LMAO, can't see those two in any same room. George, is worse than Tony Mateo. At least Tony have morals, loose morals, but still some morals. Danny Vito, best Penguin. Do a newer one with Jason Alexander. Oh my God, Danny DeVito is the best Penguin. We love Danny DeVito. But that is I Am the Night, Color Me Black. Coming up next, this is a groundbreaker. This is a groundbreaker because, in my humble opinion, this is the worst episode of The Twilight Zone. So many wonderful episodes, so many great stories and tales and moments that we've had from this series, and who everyone remembers Burgess Meredith and the glass is breaking, and everyone remembers it's a cookbook, and everybody remembers the monsters are due on Maple Street, and everybody remembers no change at all. We all remember the Twilight Zone. It's a show based on its memorability and how many classic episodes that it had from beginning to end. But of course, over the course of 156 individual short tales, there has to be a best and there has to be a worst. And this episode is the worst. Season 5, episode 27. This is Sounds and Silences. Roswell Flemington enjoys loud noises, is an annoyance to others, and is suitably punished. This is the biggest piece of shit Twilight Zone episode that there ever was, ever will be. It's the fucking opposite of Bret Hart. The worst there is, the worst there was, and the worst there ever will be. Slap the sharpshooter on it, son of a bitches. I can't believe how bad this episode is. I cannot believe Rod Serling wrote this. I would hope that it would have been somebody else. This script is the worst thing Rod Serling ever wrote. The worst. The absolute worst. This fucking episode is about a fat fuck played by John MacGyver. And I'm sorry, John MacGyver, rest in peace, whatever the fuck. You're a fat fuck, whatever. I'm not skinny either, but fuck. Well, I'm skinnier than him, so whatever. It's about fat fuck who enjoys the sounds of the fucking war battle. And you hear ships blowing up. He has a record that plays the ship sounds. He's got ships in a bottle. He blasts ship music in his office where he yells at motherfuckers. He comes home and plays these fucking records, and his wife is like, "You're a fat, annoying fuck." He's like, "Yeah, I know. Shut the fuck up. My mother was a fucking asshole to me." And this fucking guy, all of a sudden, he starts to hear everything to a magnified degree. And if he hears a water drop, it'll keep him up at night. Everything, if you hear a pin drop, he'll hear it. He starts to have this weird hearing issue. He goes to a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist fixes his hearing problem. And then at the end of the episode, he's fucking deaf. And he's yelling for people to make noise. And they send him to a sanitarium. This is fucking horrible. Shame on you. Shame, shame, shame on you. This is fucking garbage. This could have been in Creepshow 3. That's how fucking bad this is. It could have been. This fucking bullshit. Fuck you. This is the worst fucking thing Rod Serling ever wrote. This is the worst episode of The Twilight Zone. Absolutely no fucking doubt about it. There is the fucking Buster Keaton one, Once Upon a Time, with the fucking magical helmet. That's a piece of shit. There is Last Night of the Jockey. There is Black Leather Jackets. There is Cavender's Coming with Carol Burnett, which is also a piece of monkey shit. But there's none worse than this one. None worse than this one. Sounds and Silences is an F. And is the absolute worst Twilight Zone episode of all time. There's a reason nobody remembers it. I bet you, I haven't looked at the comments yet, I bet you none of you have even seen it because it's fucking garbage. And I'd never seen it until I got this Blu-ray set because it's never one they show on television. And I fucking understand why. Because it stinks. It's bullshit. Moving on. No, I'm just kidding. Let's get back to comments here. We had a bunch. I think we were here. Do you feel like the dislikable character is writing flaw or a writing experiment to test or throw the audience? I don't know. I think, okay, it's definitely one of those episodes where, at least this is I Am the Night Coloring Black. It's one of those episodes where I get what he's going for. He's definitely trying to engage the audience, have people think about, should we hate? Should we be so negative, right? And I get the point. I get the message, and I actually agree with it. We shouldn't have all this hate in our hearts. But from a story standpoint, I think it's a writing flaw. I do. Because, let's say I'm writing this. I'm Monday Night Quarterback. And let's say I'm right behind Rod Serling. Granted, Rod Serling is one of the greatest creative minds that there ever was. Even if he wrote Sounds and Silences, he also fucking wrote a lot of great episodes of Twilight Zone too. Like this is the same motherfucker with the masks. So you see the highs and lows. But if I was theoretically in the room with him, I would have said, okay, listen, here's what you got here. You have a prisoner sentenced to hang because he murdered someone who was a racist bigot who was trying to kill another man. Right here, to me, the guy who killed the other guy to save the other guy, that's your martyr. That's a good guy. And the episode really makes him out to be not. That's my issue. That's the flaw. I would have it be, okay, this guy's in the cell. Listen, hey, I get it. I killed the guy. I know I did something wrong, but he was going to kill anyway. Like, have him plea his case and say, listen, this is wrong. And then to have us as the viewer go, they shouldn't be hanging this guy. That was, he served justice. Even though killing is not acceptable, he fucking killed a bad person. Thus, we don't want him to be hung at the end. And the whole episode's point could still revolve around that. The screaming mob. That was one of our buddies. That was one of our poker buddies. That was our friends. That was whatever the fuck. Kill this guy, whatever. Who cares that he saved somebody else? You could still have that message in there, but while having the viewer go, I agree with that. Like I hope that this guy doesn't get hung because he did it out of the kindness of his heart. He did it to save another human. So we side with him. That's not there. So I think it's a flaw. Because no one's likable. They're all assholes to the point where it's like, you gave me nobody to root for. Therefore, yeah, I get why there's fucking hate. So I don't know. I think his message still could have been delivered if they tweaked that lead character who's going to be hung. That's just my 2 cents. I really think it fucking cripples the episode. The Hunt, I love The Hunt. One of my favorite episodes of season 3, LMAO. Do I feel a rant coming on? Damn right. Sound Silences sucks. The twists at the end of the most Twilight Zone make that Twilight Zone the memorable show that it is. Sure, Grande maybe Sterling was under the gun and to finish the script had a deadline to get the script. So hear this out. This is what the icing on the cake of this being the worst episode. Somebody called into CBS and said they were going to sue Rod Serling over this episode. Now, I would have called into CBS and said, you need to get Rod Serling off these fucking drugs or give me some of that shit he's smoking because this is the biggest piece of shit he was ever involved in. With that being said, of course, this guy sued because he claimed to have submitted a very similar script months before that was declined by Rod Serling, and Rod Serling had to pay this guy $3,500 to go away. So fucking $3,500 he had to do in a settlement to avoid being sued just to fucking get this guy away. And in turn, this episode was rarely on syndication after it aired. Wow. So not only is this the worst episode, the worst script he ever wrote, he had to call up $3,500 from somebody who claimed they wrote it. If I was Rod Serling, I would have said, here, take the $3,500 and we're going to put your name on it, you son of a bitch. Like, or hey, I'm going to keep my money. We'll put your name on it then, bitch. Like, that would have been amazing if they did that. So he didn't get to iron out the bugs. I think a few other episodes follow that pattern too. Oh my God, it's horrible. Oh yeah, I guess Buster Keaton one was pretty bad. Yeah, the Carol Burnett one was pretty bad. Oh, totally terrible. The Sound of Silence song fits. Yeah, it does. Rod Serling wrote the script Planet of the Apes, one of the great movies of all time. I love the speech. The African-American priest is probably the only likable person in the whole episode. I love it. God damn it, you killed for us. Like, he's trying to, he's like, come be a martyr. And the fucking guy's like, fuck all of you. I don't understand. He did kill a terrible person, but in turn, he's like, yeah, I'm guilty. Fuck yeah, I'm guilty. Like, I don't know. It's so weird. I can't explain it. Like, I guess one of those, if you watched it with me, I could point out what I would have done different. I don't know if I'm explaining it poorly. Damn, watching your rant about that episode sounds better than the actual episode. It's fucking horrible, that episode. Don't subject yourself to that. Yeah, famous people tend to get tied up in lawsuits. Oh, he got sued a bunch, Rod Serling. Yeah, I watched Apes recently, Brian. Notice his name. Yeah, no, he's great. Oh, yeah, 2 screenwriters can come up with the same story and not know. Yeah, that's absolutely the case for sure. But Sound of Silences, that's staying right there in the F category, ladies and gents. Coming up next, though, it is season 5, episode 28. This is Caesar and Me. Yes, Caesar and Me. When Irish ventriloquist Jonathan West cannot find any work, his dummy Caesar suggests he turns to burglary. Yes, Caesar and Me. Now, this is the return of the dummy. Of course, this is the same exact dummy used in the episode The Dummy with Cliff Robertson, which is a lot better episode than this. This was the first Twilight Zone and only Twilight Zone ever to be written by a woman. So we had our first episode directed by a woman, Ida Lupino. This one, the only one ever written by a woman. And man, this one is definitely not half as good as The Masks. This is, again, another very forgettable one, in my humble opinion. Never really cared for this one either. This is Jackie Cooper stars. I think he does a good job as this Irish ventriloquist who is low on money, cannot pay his rent. This little brat in the apartment, spies on him from time to time, and he sees him talking to the dummy. And the dummy's trying to convince him to commit crime and stuff like that. He doesn't want to do it, but because he's so broken, he's going to be evicted. He goes ahead and he starts stealing things. And Jackie Cooper does a good job. Jackie Cooper gives it his all. Jackie Cooper's the reason I wouldn't fail it. But the rest of the episode is just very, like, blah. There's not much to this one. This is one of those where it's like, cool, the dummy's back. What are we going to do with? Oh, not much. Okay, like, I don't know. This one, again, very flat. In similar vein to probably, a I'm the Night, Color Me Black, just a very flat episode. Like in one, same with Queen of the Nile, very just in one ear, out the other, like very forgettable. I don't know. Caesar and Me, it has a very annoying kid in it. The little kid, the little girl, she's a brat, and she has no character other than I'm just a brat. Kids are fucking can be brats, but this bitch, she had no other character to her. Like she's just a brat. Like I don't know. I just thought it was fucking lame. Caesar and Me is a D. I don't want to spend too much time on it. Caesar and Me goes right in the fucking D pile. I'm not a fan of that one. Let's see. Don't we side with the mafia when we watch The Godfather? I mean, we definitely side with the mafia when we watch The Sopranos. I mean, definitely. These are not good people, but they're so entertaining. They're so funny. And they're so real that you fucking kind of fall in love with them. Like it's same thing with like, okay, here's a perfect example. The movie Heat, right? Fucking Robert De Niro, clear-cut babyface. Al Pacino, I'm sorry, Robert De Niro, clear-cut heel. Al Pacino, clear-cut babyface. There's not one motherfucker leaving that theater that wasn't cheering for De Niro. Right? It's just you're with him, even though he's the villain. You can play with these things. I just think like the Eye of the Night, Color Me Black episode completely dropped the ball. Like I really think it could have been a great episode. Who's the dummies now? Yeah, that's the key question, Mr. Steele. Sometimes bad people do good things, but a hateful person being a martyr against hatred goes against the message. Yeah. Oh my God. Yes. Thank you. That's what I've been trying to say. Thank you. Just curious, Grande. I know you like Twilight Zone TV show. What do you think of the Twilight Zone movie? I really like it. I'll say this. First and foremost, I know the controversy with Vic Morrow and the two, I think it was Vietnamese little girls. Super tragic that they all died. I don't really want to go too far into that. Of course, if you don't know, John Landis directed a segment, and basically Vic Morrow, the actor, and two Vietnamese little girls, they got killed. Two of them decapitated. One of them got crushed. Very sad circumstance. So that movie, it's hard. It's like eggshells when you're talking about that movie because it's like three people died on the set where they should not have died. It's hard. But the movie, like, okay, if I'm talking about the movie itself, I really like the movie. I especially, and this is the weirdest thing. My favorite thing in that movie is the opening. And I know a lot of people were like, "What the fuck, the opening?" Because there's nothing really Twilight Zone about it. I love the opening with fucking Al Brooks and Dan Aykroyd in the car. And let the midnight special shine a light on me. Let the midnight special. Fucking Creedence Clearwater Revival is the way to my heart. Okay, I love fucking Creedence. And to play that and then fucking follow it by Twilight, talk about Twilight Zone, and then bam, a jump scare. I love. The kick the can segment sucks in that movie. The Joe Dante segment's okay. The fucking remake of the Shatner is not as good. I don't know. I'm much more a fan of the show, but I don't think the movie's bad. I think it's a decent movie. I hate you, Trench. Just kidding. Haha, lol. This sounds like the ventriloquist in Scarface from Batman. Yeah, sure, definitely. I think I enjoyed the ventriloquist one. I love the Cliff Robertson one. This one, though, is just so forgettable. Nobody remembers this one. Anything mannequin or dummy, I'm in a la Tourist Trap. Well, can't beat that. And I know you're a big fan of Magic. I love that shit, man. I always side with the mafia, obligation to my background. Of course. Hey, man, I hear that, man. Margarete. Apandino. This is the way, Mateo. Yes. Hell yeah, man. You're going to be whacked tomorrow. Oh, let's hope not. Best part of the movie, John Lithgow. He's always great. Sing it, Grande. Shine a light on me. Oh my God, Midnight Special, one of the best fucking Creedence songs. But yeah, no, John Lithgow is fun in the role. And apparently, I didn't know this. And it's funny, season 5 has the fucking episode with Shatner on the Wing. I talked about that in part 1. They did a sitcom together where they referenced the episode. He's like, hey, man, you ever fucking see something on the wing? He's like, that happened to me. They had Shatner and Lithgow film something together after that fucking movie came out. Of course, they were like, oh, my God, we have the two guys that have the wing seat. We have to do something with this. And I love that they did. Kick the Can episode was directed by Spielberg, and it sucks. I don't remember the ventriloquist I like or remember. Landis must have CCR, used Bad Moon Rising and Werewolf One. And yes, definitely. No, hey. You can never go wrong with fucking Creedence Clearwater Revival, whether it be fucking Big Lebowski, looking out my back door, and I want to know Have you ever? I'm sorry. This has become a fucking concert, dog. I'm sorry. Love Credence, though. Long story short. But that was Caesar and Me. Again, run of the mill. This next one, though, an interesting one. This next one is The Jeopardy Room, Season 5, Episode 29. A defector is trapped in a hotel room and given 3 hours to find a hidden bomb. This is definitely, like, I would say a precursor to something like Saw or even James Bond, although I think Dr. No had come out in like 63, so around that time, obviously. Stars Martin Landau, which is really cool to see him in a Twilight Zone episode. Granted, he doesn't have many people to interact with, which kind of sucks, but the episode itself, I think, is rather good. Really good cinematography. It tells the story of this Russian defector who is placed in a room, and they say, hey, 3 hours, if you don't find the bomb, we'll shoot you dead, or the bomb will blow up, whatever the fuck. You know, if you try to make a run for it, we'll shoot you. And he's given this time period to try to find the bomb. It's almost like a Saw game, or I see John Steele says an escape room type shit. Yes, exactly like what it is. You know, you have 3 hours, find the bomb, good luck. And it's very good. This is one where it's the opposite of Night Call, where Night Call, it's so dependent on its tension building, and I feel like it didn't build a good enough tension. This one, on the other hand, I think builds great tension. I think the cinematography shots, uses of the camera, really good here. I think it's very tense. You're kind of wondering is if he makes a wrong turn, if he makes a wrong move, he could just blow up. It's very intense. And I like how Landau slowly but surely kind of checks underneath the bed and checks underneath the covers, checks underneath the pillows. He looks around the phone. The phone rings. He hesitates to answer it because what if I answer it and speak into it? Of course, that's the big spoiler twist is he has to answer the phone. If he does, the bomb will explode. And he doesn't know that, of course, but he's looking around the room, and he tries to make a run for it. He gets shot at. He basically ends out outsmarting the fucking cons, and one of the stupid fucking guys picks up the phone himself and blows him and the mastermind up. A proverbial cat and mouse game, as Rod Serling says in the narration. I like this one. Now, is this an A? Is this a great episode? I wouldn't say that. It's largely forgotten, but I'd say it's right in the B category. This is going to be our first B. So right now we've got every single column with one. But I really like the Jeopardy Room. I think it's definitely above average one for sure. And now we have one in at least in every column. But it's crazy to see all the D's, man. Look at all of these fucking D's for the Twilight Zone. Very rare to see, 4 D's and and an F. That's very interesting. But obviously we have 5 that are B or better. So I mean, it is what it is, and we have a few more to go. So we'll definitely be getting going on that. Lift the Bottle, Grande, you're giving spoilers. Well, I mean, I'm spoiling all of them. So Fortunate Son is in Forrest Gump by CCR. B, I would agree definitely with the B. I think it's definitely a little bit above average. Yeah, it is pretty cool. It's definitely solid all around. I'd highly recommend it. I think it's definitely worth a watch. Mofo D, Radio Raheem. Hell yeah, man. Okay, so let's move on into another episode I really, really like. This is season 5, episode 30. This is Stopover in a Quiet Town. A hungover couple awaken to find themselves not only in a strange house, but in a deserted town where nothing is as it should be. Yes, Stopover in a Quiet Town. I love this one. And this, again, we're going to spoil it, whatever. The bottle. I really like this one from the first time I saw it. And funny enough, this one was sort of ruined for me. I guess I could tell a brief anecdote. I remember back in the day of road trips, me and my dad would go on road trips together. He would sometimes tell me Twilight Zone stories before I had even seen the show. So this is one of those ones where he told me, and the ending was ruined for me before I watched it finally, because I was like, oh my God, this is just like the story. Oh, son of a bitch. Now I know where he got it from, type of deal, where I realized it. I was like, this bastard. I thought he was Aesop. I was like, why the fuck does this guy drive a truck for a living? He could be telling Aesop's fables all over the country. But I digress. I always thought that was kind of funny that this episode was spoiled for me. Husband and wife, they wake up after being hungover from this wild party. They're in somebody else's bed. And then they start to kind of walk throughout the house and then eventually the neighborhood, and everything is deserted. And everything is kind of weird. There's no food. There's stage prop bread, and the phones aren't wired in. And there's a scene where the grass gets burned and he stomps it out and it's paper mache. It's not real grass. There's a scene where they go into the church and, open the door, go near the steeple, no people. Whatever. That's a great scene. I mean, there's such great buildup there's a train that's going around and around, and they want to get on it, and they do, and of course it's just going around in a circle. It's still bringing them back to the same Centerville. You hear a little girl laughing from beginning to end of the episode. Hee 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 hee. And they're like, where is this coming from? What the fuck? Where is this little girl laughing coming from? Show yourself, type of deal. They can't figure out what's going on. And of course, this is to me one of the best Twilight Zone twists. And I really do think the episode on it as a whole works. I mean, I really like Barry Nelson, who of course would go on to be the guy from The Shining, who gives Jack Nicholson the job. He was the winter caretaker here. That's Barry Nelson. Of course, I forget the woman's name in the episode, something Malone. She's really good. They play off each other quite well. I like them. They're very believable as husband and wife that are slowly kind of going mad and wondering where they are. Where are we, Bob? I don't know. I just don't know. I mean, it's great how this one kind of builds and builds and builds to the inevitable ending where this shadow drapes over them and they're picked up and they're in a little girl's hand. And it's this little girl who's laughing at them. That's where the voice has been coming this whole time. And the mother goes, hey, come down for dinner. You know, be careful with your new toys. Daddy brought them all the way from Earth. And she goes, oh, all right. And she kind of places them back down. And you're like, holy shit. Like this fucking, they got snatched out of the sky by this fucking giant alien and taken to be dolls in this girl's dollhouse. Like that's so Twilight Zone 101 to me. I love Stopover in a Quiet Town. Just a brilliant concept, a great execution, really good acting and direction. I don't know. I always thought the idea of doing X, Y, and Z. Oh, the trees are fake. Oh, the food is fake. Oh, the grass is not real. It's paper mache. Like to build you A, B, C, D to the point where you're like, man, what is going on here? And the little girl laughing and stuff. And you give them possible outs where, oh my God, is that a person? Is that a person? Oh no, it's a fucking mannequin. Shit. Oh my God, the train. We're out of here. We're gonna just go to the next town and we'll get out of this funky little town. And they close the blinds. Then when they open them, it's, oh my God, we're still here. Like shit. I don't know. I love it. I think it's really, really well built. I just think it's great. I really like Stopover in a Quiet Town. To me, it's going to come in at a solid A. I think Stopover in a Quiet Town is an easy A for me. I really like this episode and one of the standouts for sure for season 5. Let's see. Off topic, John Fogerty just got the rights back to sing the CCR songs. Going on tour. I'll be watching in Toronto. No way! That's so cool. You're going to go see Creedence? I would love to go see Creedence. If they ever come to the Garden, man, I'll be there to go see Creedence because I'm a big fan. I mean, one of my favorite bands of all time. Grande's not hitting the bottle. No, I don't. I did never have drinking in my life. I'm proud of it. You guys talking? Okay, baffles me how you can be sued for sounding too much like yourself. Dude, yeah, no, it's bizarre. Before Vivarium, yeah, Jesse Eisenberg joined. That's a good one, man. Good call. And Imogen Poots, which is a fun name to say. The plot twist of the Jeopardy reminds me of the old Willie Coyote and Roadrunner cartoons where each trap the Willie Coyote build to catch the Roadrunner would go always wrong. Sure, absolutely. That's a very good point. Barry Nelson, I think, played Alex's father in Clockwork Orange. That is not true. And I can remember this character named Barry Lyndon. No, he is only in The Shining. Barry Nelson's definitely not in Clockwork Orange. The guy who plays his father is, oh my God, I can't think of his fucking name. Oh man, it's like my second favorite movie of all time. Now I'm fucking thinking, but I don't want to derail the show here. I remember this one. Yeah, no, it's a solid episode. I really like Stopover in a Quiet Town. Always have, always will. I think it's a damn good episode for me. So highly recommend. Coming up next, though, is arguably the most controversial episode of the series, which is very interesting. With 5 to 6 episodes remaining, you get the one that was so controversial that they pulled it from syndication after it aired one time, and it did not air from 1964 all the way until 2016 again in syndication. I shit you not. This was held off the air for over 50 years. Wow. And this is season 5, episode 31. This is The Encounter. Yes, The Encounter. Post-World War II Hawaii, 2 men of once opposing races are stuck in an attic full of war trophies, including a samurai sword awaiting to dutifully avenge its slain master. Sorry, I botched that word. Dutifully. The Encounter. Now, this one is only going to be as good as its 2 lead actors, and your 2 lead actors are fucking Neville Brand, who I love. Of course, he went on to be in Toby Hooper's Eaten Alive and amongst other great films, and George Takei, who, funny enough, celebrates his 86th birthday today. I will raise the bottle to that. Happy birthday, George Takei. Happy 86th fucking birthday. Cheers. We'll dedicate this episode to you. Cheers, my friend. I'm going to take a sip. Or maybe more than one sip. I don't know. But, wow. A very interesting episode. And an episode, like I said, that was removed from syndication for over 50 years because of its elements and because of some of its dialogue. Of course, this is an episode definitely touching on race once again, but I think it's much better than I Am the Night, Color Me Black. And here's why. Two players, right? You have Neville Brand, who is a ex-war veteran, and he is down in some beers in the attic, feeling very lonely. His wife has left him. He's kind of miserable in life. He's just looking kind of for companionship. And sure enough, George Takei, who plays the gardener, comes up and says, hey, you know what? I can mow your lawn for $7 a month, and that's a fair trade. I wish that was the case now. I would be like, hey, man, you can cut my grass for I'll give you $14 a month, son of a bitch. You can cut my grass every month. Why not? You know, he comes up and he's trying to go. He's like, okay, I'll thank you, deal. I'm going to go. No, wait a minute. Check this out. He keeps kind of pulling George Takei back in. Check this out. Here's a beer. Oh, here's a fucking samurai sword. It has this little engraving on it. Could you tell me what it says? Oh, I'm Japanese, but I don't speak any. Very interesting type of dialogue. And we watch this episode as it starts all buddy, friendly. This is my name. What's your name? And it slowly but surely escalates to this kind of tension and feud between the two, brewing until an ultimate boiling point. As, of course, they're sharing stories where Neville Brand discusses how he was told not to take any prisoners and he murdered innocent Japanese soldiers who surrendered to him because he was, by taking orders, he says, I was just taking orders. I was told you people weren't even people. I was told, you were just apes. And he says something along the lines of, oh, now you're all these cultured people and I'm supposed to believe that. Very, edgy, especially for today's day, which is why I can understand why it was held off syndication for as long as it was. I totally get that. I totally understand it. He even calls him the derogatory, the J word. He calls him that, which is definitely a no-go. But then on the other side, you have George Takei. And George Takei's character is telling the story about how his father was a turncoat. And at first he's, my father was a great man and he did X, Y, and Z and I loved him and I always looked up to him and I always wanted to be like him. And as the two of them go on and on with their stories, the more truths start to be revealed. And he says, my father was a traitor. And he starts crying. And George Takei steals the episode with this amazing acting performance where he's discussing the morning of Pearl Harbor and how his father signaled in the bombers to kill all of these innocent Americans. And I love George Takei's performance. And boom, boom, boom. He killed them all. He was a dirty, rotten traitor. And he just breaks down in front of Neville Brand. And you see Neville Brand's like, Jesus Christ, like, take it easy, Arthur. He's trying to console him. Like, it's weird. The tonal shift in this episode are very bipolar. It's like, hey, we're buddies. Now we're enemies. Now, oh my God, are you going to try to kill me? No, you didn't try to kill me. It's very all over the fucking place with tone. But here's where it works to me, as opposed to I Am the Night, Color Me Black. Both of these men are suffering from guilt. And both of these men are lonely. And both of these men are not happy. And both of them almost seem to be a little bit possessed by this samurai sword. This samurai sword in the attic that of course, he took off an innocent Japanese soldier. And, of course, George Takei looks at it at one point when Neville Brand's not looking, and he mouths, I'm going to kill him. I'm going to kill him. Very creepy. As George Takei kind of, you see maybe a slight descent to madness. And the whole thing kind of boils over till they just finally try to kill each other. And, man, to me, an excellent episode because it's, like I said, telling the stories of guilt, the horrors of guilt between two people, and the horrors of loneliness between two people. And neither one of these guys were particularly good guys. Like, on paper, it looks like, they might be okay, but they both did some bad things that they're not proud of. And is this attic door seems locked, at the end when one kills the other, the door just miraculously opens. And Rod Serling says they were kept in there by their fucking guilt. And they were kept in there not because this door was locked, but because of the guilt that they both have, in their past. I love this episode. I think George Takei steals it. I think it's a damn good episode, an episode that more people need to talk about. It's a shame that it was kind of taken off syndication. The first time I ever saw it was in this box set. Of course, the Blu-ray complete series of the show. And I was like, wow, like I was blown away by it. I was like, man, that's a shame that they took that away from syndication. And then, like I said, it wasn't until 2016 where it finally aired again as a part of a Twilight Zone marathon at Sci-Fi. And I made sure I watched it. I was like, this is television history. It's the first time this is going to see the air since fucking 1964. I have to watch it. And I did. I stayed up to watch this particular episode. And I thought it was wonderful. I really did. I thought this was ahead of its time. I think this is how you do an episode like that about hate and about these kind of more delicate subjects. I don't know. I like this one for sure. I'm thinking of someone else, that guy who played Delbert Grady in The Shining. All right, Barry Nelson is the guy who interviews Jack. Yes. George Takei. Yes. Is Nimoy in it? No, Nimoy's not in it, but young George Takei is pre-Star Trek. ATG Nat Podcast is hanging in here. Hey, how's it hanging, everybody? Welcome, my friend. ATG Nat Podcast did an awesome episode review on Dawn of the Dead, going through the good, bad, and the ugly. People know me, know Dawn of the Dead, my favorite movie. If you did not and have not checked out their channel, they do some awesome stuff. And that was my favorite movie ever made. So it was really cool to hear your guys' thoughts on that. Or is there another one? What do you mean? There's the one where Nimoy becomes Japanese. Oh, that's a Quality of Mercy. I thought you were kidding because they're both in Star Trek. It's a different one, Brian. Okay. Hey, Solus, right, John? Yeah. Let's see. I believe it was Quality of Mercy. Yes, it was. Oh, this is a great one. It is. Gotta go. Gotta get going here. Take care, everyone. Have a good night. Sean, have a great night, buddy. Have a wonderful weekend, my friend. Thanks, Lester Fred. Takei plays creepy well. Yes, he does. Like he goes through every emotion here, right? Like it's a grand performance from Takei. He goes from happy, hey, can I cut your lawn? To sad, my dad was a traitor, to vengeful, like I'm going to kill you. He covers every single fucking emotion you can have in a 25-minute episode. It's damn good acting from Takei. Thanks, Grande. Dude, anytime, man. Keep up the great work. Ciao, Grande. Didn't mean to be so late. How are you doing? Wes, I'm doing even better now that you're here, my friend. I'm so glad to see you on the graveyard. Welcome to my graveyard, my friend. Dawn of the Dead, never heard of it. Just kidding. Yeah, no, I don't know. That little Dawn of the Dead movie. Who's ever heard of that one? The Encounter, though, it is going to come in at a high A. I think The Encounter is a damn good episode. It is going to be our 4th A episode here for sure. The Twilight Zone from 2002 did an episode where a white man. I seen that, and that was actually not that bad. I thought that was actually a pretty good one. I did. I really did. I don't know. I would say that was even better than I'm the Night Color in Black. And that was written by fucking Rod Serling. Good to see you too, dude. Always a pleasure to see you, my friend. I'm glad to have you in the house. And we have only 5 episodes left. So you're right down to the wire, my friend. Coming up next, season 5, episode 32. This is Mr. Garrity and the Graves. Yes, Mr. Garrity comes into town of Happiness, Arizona, offering to resurrect the dead and reunite the townsfolk with their departed loved ones out of the goodness of his heart. But do the townfolks want these miracles to occur? Yes, Mr. Garrity and the Graves. In a show where they try comedy a lot. Let's face it. Mr. Beavis, Cavender is Coming, actually had a laugh track in it. Once Upon a Time. From Agnes with Love. I mean, there's a lot of episodes in this show that tried comedy, and in my opinion, failed miserably. This is not a show that got comedy down right. I Dream of Jeannie, one of the worst Twilight Zones. The Bard, one of the worst Twilight Zones. Up there. I mean, bad episodes that tried comedy. Here's an episode that tried comedy, and in my opinion, is the best comedic episode of the Twilight Zone they ever did. And why is that? Is because they integrated the black humor that they had to add. This is the Twilight Zone. I don't really feel like you could do a straight up slapstick episode and have it work, because this is still, it's the Twilight Zone. It's a darker world. You got to have to integrate some kind of darkness, gray area, blackness in there somewhere to contrast the comedy. At least that's what I would do if I was making a fucking black comedy Twilight Zone episode. And thankfully, Mr. Garrity of the Graves finally gets it right. I love this one. It basically tells the story of Mr. Garrity. He comes to town in his horse and carriage. And of course, he enters the saloon where he claims, I can raise the dead. And the whole town folks, they're all so over the top. And, you say you could raise the dead, huh? Like, prove it. And he says, okay, I'll do it. I'll prove it. Tonight, I will return all of your dead loved ones to you. And he's promising them all these things out of the goodness of my heart. And he even does this thing where this dog gets run over by a wagon. And he says, you all can't be looking. I'll resurrect the dog. So they all turn their backs and he resurrects the dog. The dog goes running off. They're like, oh my God, he's a healer. He's like Jesus Christ reincarnated or whatever. They're all believing his shtick. And of course he says, tonight you'll have all of your, loved ones returned to you. And of course, these people kind of turn against that and say, hey, we would rather them stay. Sometimes dead is better. And you better stay off that road now, Lost. Now you see? Better stay off that road. Dead is better. John Crandall. He doesn't want, of course, a lot of people in the town, they don't want their loved ones to come back. And the humor of this makes me cackle laughing. There's one guy, he's the town drunk. He goes, my wife was beautiful when she was buried, and I like to keep it that way. I don't know, that fucking line kills me. I love that line, man. It makes me fucking laugh. And he's like, oh, she used to break my arm, my wife. Can you make sure she stays dead? And it's all these people saying at first, oh, sure, bring them back. And then going the counter to that where it's like, nah, they're better off dead. Keep them dead. And I love the humor here. Like, I think it's great. And Mr. Garrity, of course, to keep them dead, now he starts charging. I bring them back out of the goodness of my heart, but to keep them there, that's an expensive job. That's going to be $1,000. How would 100 do? Oh, not going to cut it. What about 500? It warms me, but 750. So he takes all of this money from these people that believe he can raise the dead. And of course he says, okay, I'll be leaving now. He leaves, he goes out of town. And of course he is shown to be a phony, and he has people working with him and working for him. And he's fucking this big phony that uses these cons to, trick people and make them believe that he is this kind of guy that can resurrect people. Twilight Zone twist on it, though. As they walk away from the fucking cemetery, the people actually rise up from the dead and start heading back towards the town resurrected. And you get this whole idea that, oh my God, he didn't realize he actually could raise the dead. He wasn't, didn't have to be this con man. He actually could do what he claimed to do. And I thought that was a great twist. And the episode from beginning to end is funny. It's quirky. It's innovative. It's smart. Here's this con man that tricked all these people, but he was a sad misjudger of his own damn talents because he could raise the dead. I thought that was great. I think the lead actor did a great job. I love this one. My opinion, Mr. Garrity in the Graves is going to be another A. I really like Mr. Garrity in the Graves. I think it's a damn good episode. The best Twilight Zone comedy that there ever was, in my humble opinion. Hocus Pocus and Frisbee was god-awful, Grande. I love that one. I can't lie. The Boy Who Cried Wolf. Again, because they add that little bit darker, like, because he cried wolf so many times, they don't believe him at the end about the aliens. And it's the whole, you're like, oh my God, like, this dumb fuck. He just saw aliens and no one's going to believe him. I thought that was great. Using a harmonica to fly out of us. I kind of love that one. I can't lie. A grifter, in other words. Sure. Hey, Ice Lord. Okay. But yes, that is Mr. Garrity in the Graves. Highly recommended. To me, the best comedic episode in Twilight Zone history. Coming up next, though, Season 5, Episode 33, this is the Brain Center at Whipple's. A heartless CEO completely automates his factory and lays off almost all of his workers over the objections of his employees. Yes, the Brain Center at Whipple's. Lame. This is a concept I would have liked to have seen done earlier in the show's, incarnation, I guess. Like, if this episode had been done season 1, season 2, I think it would have been nailed. I really do. I think this is one of the few episodes that really disbenefited from being a season 5 episode. Like, this one feels like there wasn't that much heart put into it. And it's funny because the whole kind of point of it is that you can't replace man because man has heart, man has dignity, and man has personality, and you can't just replace them with a machine. That's the whole type of point in this. And I agree with Sasha Frey. When you're dead and buried, who you get to mourn for you? They play that numerous times throughout the episode. The idea is great. It's great. It's the old Dusty Rhodes hard time. Hard times is when a man's working job for 30 years. 30 years. They kick him in the pants, give him a gold watch, and tell him a computer had taken your job, daddy. That's hard time. That's hard time. That it's basically a whole episode just off that promo. A computer is taking your job, daddy. That's hard times. Yeah, That sucks. And it happens, man. I was talking with AJ Zetro the other day, man. He was telling me that there's a McDonald's in Texas somewhere where they don't have any people at all working in there. It's all robots, apparently. That's what he was telling. I don't know. I didn't look into it. But this whole notion of, robots, computers, machines can take jobs away from the hard class working man, absolutely, I agree with that. It's horrible. I think the point of it is great. I just think the episode itself is sort of poorly executed. The lead actor, Richard Deacon, he's okay. But it's just one of those where it's kind of like, God damn it, I wish this could have been better. I don't know necessarily what went wrong here. I don't think the writing is poor. Like, I like the whole, at the end, Richard Deacon gives a speech that man has value and man has worth and I was wrong. And of course you see that even he was replaced. The boss that wanted to replace everybody has been replaced at the fucking end, whatever, that is what it is. I don't know. I always wanted this one to be a little bit better than it fucking is. I don't know. The Brain Center of Whipples is a frustrating one. And I will say this too. It's boring. It's rather boring episode. Like, it's not very entertaining episode. So the Brain Center of Whipples to me is going to come in at like a D. I don't know. It's funny. You have a lot of A and a lot of D and then one of everything else. Or two S's. But I don't know. I just never really cared for this one. I always felt it was kind of like blah episode. Makes me think of Twitter or Starbucks. I'm good, Ice Lord. Thanks for how are you? Super Friends did an episode on that idea as well. Yeah, no, hey, listen, the idea is good. It's just, I don't know, the episode itself, it's like, do you ever want to go back and rewatch? Oh, I want to watch Brain Center of Whipples. Like, nobody fucking does. Like, that's the issue. Getting back in that saddle again. Dude, good to hear, man. That's great. We got to catch up sometime, Wes. I need to talk to you, man. So they don't have to pay anybody. Well, yeah, I mean, that's usually the idea. Nice, man. Sounds like Adam Sandler. What, my Dusty Rhodes impression? Really? That's the first time I've ever heard that. Can you imagine if Dusty Rhodes ever acted an episode of The Twilight Zone? Rod Serling, baby, let me tell you something. My son Cody just got Rod to WrestleMania 39, baby. And this is hard times with Dusty Rhodes and his family. I will have to be plunging on my family's toilet, if you will. That would have been hysterical. Grande, you have an unrivaled and encyclopedic knowledge of all your favorite media, maybe all amazing. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. That was a goddamn great Dusty impression. Hard times. Polka dots killed him, unfortunately. Yeah, no, for real, man. That put the polka dots on me in sweet sapphire, if you will, baby. And God rest her soul, her body was worse than mine, daddy. I would take the $1 million man's money. I'll go 3 for them, 2 for me. 3 for them, 2 for me. The American Dream Dusty Rhodes the greatest. Or if he opened, oh my God. Baby, let me tell you something. His occupation, he was the son of a plumber. And let me tell you something. He lived and died on the edge of the Twilight Zone, baby. Up the next signpost up ahead. That would be amazing. That would be cool, Grande. Yeah, man, we got to talk sometime. Dude, Miss Carter, if Dusty and Flair did an episode together, that would be great too. Oh my God, imagine. That would be amazing. That's why I say you're erudite Grande. Fuck, I can't even pronounce that word. Erudite Grande. Thank you, my friend. Polka dots were legendary. Respect the dots. Oh, dude, you got to respect the dots. I mean, you got to. Even though, I get what Mateo's saying. It really hurt his, like, legitimate, like, push. But, Vince saw him as a joke. It's the truth. It's a shame. But moving on into, wow. The episode I probably recommend the most out of all of these, because I know probably most people have not seen this. This is season 5, episode 34. This is Come Wander With Me. Yes, Come Wander With Me. Singer Floyd Burney searches the backwoods for new songs and finds Mary Rachel and much more deep in the Twilight Zone. Yes, Come Wander With Me. If there was one episode I want to recommend on this whole episode, it's this episode. It is this fucking episode because I know a lot of people have not seen it. And I think on paper is the most unique and different Twilight Zone episode that there ever was. I really believe that. And funny enough, even though this is the third to last or second to last episode third to last episode we'll be talking about here tonight, this was the last episode ever recorded and produced for the show. Even though it did not air last, this was the last one that they filmed, shot, produced, what have you. This is the swan song in a lot of ways. Even though Bewitchin Pool is technically the series finale, this was the last thing that they ever shot. And I always thought that was interesting because It's so abstract. It's so different from every single other Twilight Zone episode. To end on this note is just so fucking interesting to me. It's directed by Richard Donner. It's probably my favorite directed episode of the Twilight Zone season. Like it's arguably the best directed Twilight Zone that there ever was. The atmosphere in it drips off the screen. It's great. It's fantastic. It basically tells the story of Bing Crosby's son, Gary Crosby. Funny enough, he's the star in, I think it's Gary. Yeah, it's Gary Crosby. He stars in this as Floyd Burney, the rockabilly boy, who is looking to buy a song, and he is riding around in his car. He stumbles across this music shop where this weird old man is in there. If you watch closely, there's small Easter eggs when he enters the store. He plays this instrument where he goes ping, vamp, vamp, vamp. You wouldn't think anything of it, but that little bit of music is a score that they used all the way back in the first season. It was almost like they knew. They're like, this is it. We're done. Like, we have to do this little Easter egg in here to like, hey, we love this piece of music. You know, I love that. I love the little Easter egg in there. He's talking to this weird old man who doesn't want to sell him anything. And all of a sudden he hears this wonderful, most beautiful singing voice. And he's like, what the heck is this? This woman singing a song. And he's drawn to it. And he starts to walk out of the store and just deeper and deeper into the woods, trying to hear where the music is coming from, this beautiful song, and where the beautiful music is coming from. I love that. I think it's great. As he walks deeper into the woods and hears this beautiful song coming from Bonnie Beecher. And if you don't know who Bonnie Beecher is, Bonnie Beecher in real life married Wavy Gravy. She married Wavy Gravy in real life. So, you know, musical talent has this beautiful singing voice. And she's singing the most haunting song you ever want to hear. Come wander with me, love. Come wander with me. Great. I mean, I can't do it any justice. Obviously, I don't have the fucking pipes to hit those notes, but she does a great job at just creating that fear where you're like, what the heck? And he wants to buy the song from her. And it's just a very abstract episode because the Twilight Zone always had a moral, always had something to say, always had places to go. And here we end on a note where it's completely up to you. It's completely abstract, right? We have a series where we had characters learning moral lessons, and we had, of course, like the Masks episodes, they got their comeuppance. We had the guy from 4 o'clock. At 4 o'clock, Pete, all the evil in the world will turn 2 feet tall. He got his comeuppance. And on a show where it was always so straightforward, and the morals and the themes and the ideas were always kind of laid out for you and given up to your interpretation to kind of think about and let brew in your head, we're left with this. We're left with this weird folk horror atmospheric episode starring Bing Crosby's son and Bonnie Beecher singing folk songs in the middle of the fucking woods with some of the best atmosphere you've ever heard and seen. And man, it just escalates. Eventually the song becomes about his life and dying, and we see his own grave. He walks past his own grave at a point. What's going on? I mean, just so confusing. To me, this episode is one of those where the more you explain about it, it could just become more and more confusing. So I don't want to confuse people. I really want people to go out and watch this one. It's on Freevee. You can watch any Twilight Zone episode on Freevee if you want. Watch this, man, because this is top level Twilight Zone to me. And for me, this is going to be a fucking S tier episode. I know I'm alone in that. Most people hate it, but Come Wander With Me is an S, man. I really, really enjoy Come Wander With Me. Highly recommend. Let's get back to the chat, though. I believe we were here. I think we were here. The polka dots were legendary. Respect that. Oh yeah, no, totally, man. Hell yeah, John. Love the spots. Trench. Love the line. I'm Floyd Burney, the rockabilly boy. Yeah, no, for real. He's great in this, man. Miss Carter, I can only imagine. Trenchy. I saw interviews on each other before matches. I was on the floor dying. Oh my God, Flair and Dusty Rhodes is great. I know it was meant as a joke, but Dusty made the polka dots work. He did. He got it over. Like I think they paid him like $500,000 to come in. I think he only stayed there about a year, but he worked he worked some great matches, man. I love Dusty Rhodes. Dusty, thank you. I appreciate that. Richard Donner is my second favorite director of all time. I love Richard Donner. And this is, I mean, he directed this and he also directed Nightmare on 20,000 Feet. So, I mean, 2 really great episodes. Frank Mazzitti is in the house. Frank, I haven't seen your name in forever, man. Hope all is well with you. Do Macho Man introduce him? Oh, yeah, this week on the Twilight Zone, we're gonna experience some crazy psychedelic things. Oh, yeah. And me and Miss Elizabeth, we got some popcorn in one hand and soda pop in the other. Oh, yeah. I hope that was okay. But I don't want to give myself a fucking brain aneurysm at the same time. Who's your favorite Tredge? Sam Raimi, Brian. Oh, I mean, we love Sam Raimi. Oh, I guess you could be. Yeah, for real. Let's see. You're good, Brian. Trent, what's your name again? LOL. But yeah, no, in all seriousness, Come Wander With Me is one of the best Twilight Zones to me. Easily one of the most underrated and one of the most misunderstood. I know a lot of people hate it because it doesn't make sense. A lot of people hate it because this, that, and the other, and it's nothing like any of the other Twilight Zones. That's why I do like it. It's so different. It's a horse of a different color. It may not even be a fucking horse. That's how different it is. Written by Anthony Wilson, the only Twilight Zone he ever wrote. I don't know. I just think it's very interesting. This was the last one ever produced, and it's so different from the others. I always look at it as a transcendent door because this would have fit way more in with a Tales from the Dark Side or a Tales from the Crypt or even a Masters of Horror. I could have seen it fitting in with one of those. Maybe even, I don't know if people remember the show Hitchhike. That was a show. It was an anthology show or Amazing Stories. It's something. It definitely feels more 70s, 80s, 90s than it does 60s. It just feels so out of place. But man, the atmosphere drips off the screen. One of my faves, one of the best of season 5 for sure. But that leaves us with 2 episodes to go. This next one, season 5, episode 35. This is The Fear. Yes, The Fear, of course, season 5, episode 5. Charlotte Scott and State Trooper Robert Franklin seem to be stalked by giants. Yes, The Fear. This was the last episode written by Rod Serling, of course. The infamous Rod Serling wrote 92 of these puppies. This was number 92. I like this one okay. It's nothing great, but it's all right. It's basically this man and a woman, they meet, and they believe that there is a giant outside. Of course, the man's car gets moved, picked up, has a giant thumbprint on it. They hear these loud, footsteps. They see footsteps. They see all these things. They see everything but the giant. And they're building up in their mind the fear of what could it be? What could it be? And it's a whole kind of, satire on fear and fear of the unknown. And then, the main ingredient for anything of fear is the unknown. Rod Serling even says that. And I like the episode. The 2 leads do okay. The guy playing the cop, is actually, he was in Jason Takes Manhattan, funny enough, as the weird, like teacher guy who gets seduced and Jason puts in the barrel, throws Rennie in the water. That's the same actor, funny enough, 25 years earlier. Cool enough. They see this giant, and I could show this because this is just so fucking funny and goofy as to the, letting this air. I actually thought this was quite funny, man. I thought this was actually some of the funniest shit I've ever seen in my life. Because I have to show this, the giant Cyclops thing, because you will not believe this until you see it. Of this giant Cyclops that they fucking do. This is one of the effects to me that's kind of aged poorly to me. Look at this fucking damn thing. That is hysterical. That's when that's the big reveal of this giant. I don't know. That was really fucking stupid and funny at the same time, but I don't know. It's the Twilight Zone at the same time. That's the big reveal. That's the giant. And they're like, oh, we got to run. And he goes, no, I'm going to fight that with this. And he starts shooting at it. And all of it's inflated. That's the big twist, that it wasn't really a giant. And the big twist is the aliens are this big. And, oh, please, our leader, please let us leave. We were unable to fool man by, tricking them into thinking it was a giant. And, of course, the aliens take off. And she asks him, she goes, oh, what do you think? And he goes, well, maybe the next planet they go to, they'll be the giants. Let's hope for them. He's trying to be optimistic about it. And she says, but what if the next visitors to our planet are giants? And it's a big question mark as we leave the screen, talking about fear. I like it. I think it's a nice social satire on fear itself. Rod Serling was just a brilliant guy. I like the script. I think while it's not the greatest episode of the show ever, it's definitely a passable one. It's probably around the C or the B area. We're going to give The Fear a C. The Fear is a C for now, for sure. Let's see. I Remember Amazing Stories. Really like that. Great show. Thank you, Frank, man. Well, I'll text you, man. We got to catch up. That's like what Kubrick said, that not that the universe would care about us, but be indifferent to us. Oh, sure. Yeah, for sure. See, I agree with Steele. But this is it. The next one. This is the last episode of the Twilight Zone right here now. This is season 5, episode 36, the swan song of the Twilight Zone. This is season 5, episode 6. This is the Bewitching Pool. Yes, the Bewitchin Pool. So crazy, so sad that this marked the end of my favorite television show of all time. But in my opinion, they went out with a bang, to much people's disagreement. But we'll get into it. The Bewitchin Pool, 2 children escape their bickering parents through a portal in the bottom of their swimming pool to a magical land watched over by a kind old woman called Aunt T. This was it. This was the end of my favorite show of all time. This was the last episode ever aired. And there's a reason for that. The backstory of this episode is almost as interesting as the episode itself. Rod Serling hated this, hated the episode, felt it was a disgrace, and it was his least favorite episode of the entire series. He held it from being aired with the rest of them for weeks. I believe The Fear was aired on May the 29th of 1964. This did not air until June 19th of 1964. Every other episode debuted a week apart from each other, coming up until May 29th. He waited almost an entire month, hoping that people would not watch this when it aired because he hated it so much. That's crazy to me. The reason for that, it was a troubled production. They had some audio issues. You can clearly tell a lot of the voices are dubbed, especially the outdoor scenes where, you know, the 2 children are by the pool. You could tell it's dubbed. June Foray does one of the dubbing voices. Of course, she is Rocky from Rocky and Bullwinkle, or of course, Talkie Tina, or of course, she's not in it, but the little girl, the actress playing the little girl, is from To Kill a Mockingbird, Gregory Peck. She's great. I love the actress, but they dub over her voice of June Foray, which is crazy. These 2 kids, they are dealing with their parents who are bickering, and they are getting a divorce. And the episode opens where the 2 kids jump into the pool, swim to the bottom, and the father goes and looking for them. He cannot find his children. And of course, they have vanished. Where did they go? What the heck? They have vanished to this Never Never Land that is this kind of Never Never Land for kids that have parents that do not love them or do not love each other anymore, or a variation of the both. And they, go to this Never Never Land run by this woman, this old, creepy old woman, I always thought, named Aunt T, who lives in this almost gingerbread house, all these kids playing outside with, hula hoops and baseballs and things like that. They go to this Never Never Land with her. And that's the beginning of the episode. They show you the end. And then, of course, the whole episode plays out where these kids discover this world. And at first we can't do this. We can't stay here. Our parents, they're going to work things out. They go back up. Things aren't working. They go back down. The brother doesn't want to go. She's trying to convince him, listen, we have to go. We have to give them the benefit of the doubt. They're going to talk to us today. We're going to see if we can work it out. They go back up. The parents, again, who do you want to live with? Your mother or me? They give them that choice. That's so shitty to do to a kid. Pick which one of us you want to live with. You're a parent, motherfucker. You got to make that fucking call. Come on. That's so wrong. I just hate that. But she says, we want things the way they were, and you better forget about that. And you have to pick who you're going to live with. And they look at each other and they decide to say, you know what? We're not doing this. And they go back into the Never Never Land of Aunt T. And to me, I know a lot of people, they don't like the episode. They feel like the bad dubbing hurts it, the poor production value. They definitely use the beginning and the end to just pad the episode so it fills the runtime. Technically, it's bad. It definitely, technical standpoint, it's probably a D. But to me, the idea, and I do think the execution to a degree, is S stuff. Like, it really is. The whole idea of, here's 2 kids that wanted nothing more than for their parents to just get along and love each other. And so in turn, they could be loved and they could grow up without the stress in their lives. And granted, I'm not a kid that comes from a broken home, but I know tons of friends and family, that have, people that have been divorced. And man, it's so hard on a kid. It's so hard for a kid, in my opinion, from what I've seen in my life. And it's sad. And here's this kind of message in an episode where the kids have this out to this Never Never Land where they can live in peace and happiness and make and bake cakes with Aunt T and play with each other and tell jokes around the table. And of course, we know that there is no such thing as fantasy worlds, but to a child that is looking for love, fantasy can become reality. And that's why I love the Twilight Zone. That's the bread and butter that is the Twilight Zone. Same thing with Talkie Tina, right? Which is an earlier season 5 episode. to a child in the bitter war of a stepfather and mother and feeling unloved. A doll we know can't kill or commit murder or anything like that, but a doll could become a lot of things to that child. It become guardian. It could become, companion, friend, all of these things that we all know that dolls can't be. I just love that. I think the whole idea and tackling of this concept was done quite well. I get it. People technically don't like it, but to me, that whole message of, kids feeling unloved and they had this out, I thought that was brilliant. I love, to me, the best part of the episode is at the very end where the kids are sitting around the table and they hear their parents calling for them, Jeb, Sport, please come back, please. And she looks up and I thought I heard something. And she hears it, looks down, and it's lies. If I swim back up there, it's just lies. I'm going to stay down here where I know I'm happy. And it's quite morbid, right? Like they fucking leave their parents. They just swam to the bottom of the pool. We don't want to live here. If you're not going to love each other, you're not going to love us. You're going to put the decision of who we want to live with. Go fuck yourself. I love that. I think it's really, really good episode. In my opinion, a very interesting swan song, but a damn good one. The Bewitchin Pool is an A. I think the Bewitchin Pool is a damn good episode of the Twilight Zone. Despite its technical flaws, I like the episode. Sue me, is what it is. Let's get back to comments, and then we're going to wrap this up. Let's see. Yeah, I hate the TV shows have awful last episodes. Like Seinfeld was a complete downer. Yeah, there's a lot of like the Odd Couple as well. I hate the ending of the Odd Couple where, yeah, he gets remarried, but there's no scene between Felix and Oscar where they say, hey, you know what? I know it's a pain in the ass, but I love you. Like they needed that scene between Klugman and Randall. It never fucking happened. I don't get why. Instead they did the TV movie, which, was what it was. Last episode of the Twilight Zone was decent, not great. It's hated. People hate it. Makes me think of Lillian Gish in Night of the Hunter protecting her adopted orphans from the Robert Mitchum character. Love that movie. B, that's a fair rating. That's higher than most people would give it. A separation from Iran reminds me of this, of a father and mother trying to get their daughter to choose to stay in Iran or go live in another country with her mother. Yeah, no, absolutely. It's definitely Separation won Best Foreign Film at the Oscars. That's awesome. Matrix, like some would say. Oh, sure. No, definitely. Got to get going soon. Have a good night, everybody. Yeah, no, we're wrapping up, Missy. No worries. I think the Seinfeld finale was great. Okay, fair enough. But yeah, no. So this is the second part of the Twilight Zone Season 5 ranked. Here we have, of course, Occurrence, Owl Creek Bridge, The Masks, and Come Wander With Me, all S's. A, Spur of the Moment, What's in the Box, Stop Over in a Quiet Town, The Encounter, Mr. Garrity and the Graves, and The Bewitchin Pool. Jeopardy Room, also a good one. The rest of these, a lot of D. From Agnes with Love, Queen of the Nile, I'm the Night, Color Me Black, Caesar and Me, The Brain Center Whipples, Sounds and Silences, the ultimate worst episode of The Twilight Zone. Easily. Sounds like a nice little ending to the series that could be dark at times. I thought so too. I like this ending. I think you would love this episode. I know a lot of people that like hate it, but I think Trench would totally appreciate that. Nice. Well, you're wrong, Trench. Just kidding. I did do this. I did briefly make this last night. A season 5 overview from like worst to first. I'll read these off and then we'll call it a night. How about that? So from 36, the worst of season 5, all the way to the best. Coming in at number 36, Sounds and Silences, Black Leather Jackets, Queen of the Nile, Caesar and Me, 90 Years Without Slumbering, The Brain Center at Whipples, From Agnes with Love, Last Night of the Jockey, I Am the Night, Color Me Black, Night Call, Ring-a-Ding Girl, The Seventh Made Up of Phantoms, The Fear, The Jeopardy Room, The Self-Improvement of Salvador Ross, A Short Drink from a Certain Fountain, You Drive, The Long Morrow, The Encounter, What's in the Box, Spur of the Moment, A Kind of Stopwatch, Uncle Simon, Probe 7 Over and Out, The Old Man in the Cave, The Bewitchin Pool, Mr. Garrity and the Graves, Stop Over in a Quiet Town. Oh, I might have put Stop Over in a Quiet Town twice. Did I? I don't fucking know. Steel, Praise of Prip, Nightmare at 20,000 Feet, Come Wander With Me, and Occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge. Number 12 Looks Just Like You, Living Doll, and coming in at number 1 was The Masks. So that's my ranking if you rate it all the way down from 36 to number 1, from worst to first of season 5. Twilight Zone, like I said, it's my favorite all-time show. And I still have not done seasons 1 and 2. I will. Anthony, Fever Dreamland Theater, said he wants to join me for season 1. So we'll do those in parts 2 somewhere down the road. That is definitely for another day. I love talking about Twilight Zone, so I'm definitely excited to be at the ending here, but then we're going to start back at the beginning of the season 1 and 2 when we get there. But I definitely enjoy doing these types of shows. They're a lot of fun. at least in my humble opinion. Let's see. I think you would like the last episode of Twilight Zone, Trench, ditto with Grande. Yeah, no, definitely. Are you going to rank every single episode of the original series? Haha, that would be an epic and insane stream. I mean, I could. I certainly could. I'd be up for 2. Still, I was thinking we did Dark Side. We could do Twilight Zone, or we could do fucking Dark Side season 2. We definitely gotta get you on here again, man. Granted, we have 3 more parts to the Twilight Zone shows, right? So it'd be 4. So it'd be season 1, part 1 and 2, and season 2, part 1 and 2. I've done 3, 4, and now 5. So it's going to be 1, part 1 and 2, and 2, part 1. So 4 more. LLIP. Yeah, I have to see it, Brian. Yeah, no. So if you do, please let me know. It's on Freebie, so you can watch it right now. Only on the Graveyard, no, for real. Everybody, like I said, I really enjoy doing these. If you catch the replay, let me know which one of these episodes you liked, where you'd rank them on the S to F tier. Next week on Grande's Graveyard, we will be doing a creature feature special. What movies will we be doing? Well, Alligator, well, Shakma, and well, Monkey Shines. Yes, Shakma, Monkey Shines, and Alligator next week on Grande's Graveyard. A killer monkey, a killer buffoon, and a killer alligator. You can't beat it. I'm super excited for that. Creature feature episode next week. Be there or be square. Mateo, throwing one of these up. Thank you, my friend. Great show, man. Very fun. Dude, absolutely. Adios, buenos noches. Thank you, man. Awesome episode, Grande. Have a good night, everybody. Got to revisit Twilight Zone episode Masks for sure. Hell yeah, man. Nice. LLAP. All right, everybody. Cheers to a wonderful, safe, happy, healthy weekend, and we will catch you next time. Only on the Graveyard. Too sweet peace. We'll catch you next time. Good night, everybody. Ciao.